Chapter 1520. After making sure that Sin Che was fine, the woman left with the little girl. Shi Shang and Sin Che left the police station. She lowered her head and said thoughtfully, "The ghost contract can only be broken by both parties, but there will be a price to pay. However, if the other party is killed, the ghost contract will disappear automatically." "He's here." Sin Che's gaze fell on the traffic. Shi Shang followed his gaze. A black shadow flashed through the traffic, and in the next second, the cars crashed into each other uncontrollably. The screeching of brakes and screams mixed together, making one's hair stand on end. Meanwhile, the instigator was floating in the air, seemingly satisfied with the accident he had caused. Shi Shang had only seen a black shadow before, but now she could see the outline and figure. She was afraid that after a while, the instigator would appear completely. This test. It was really interesting. Because it was a ghost contract, it was difficult for her to sense his presence. Even if she could sense him, she couldn't catch him. If this continued, something would happen sooner or later. However, she was Shi Shang. How could there be something that she couldn't handle? No one knew how this accident happened. It was as if all the car owners suddenly had convulsions, and they crashed into each other when they saw the cars. Many people said that they had been possessed. It was fine if one person had convulsions, but how could all of them have convulsions? Could convulsions be infected? They must have been possessed. In order to attract attention, the media also used the word supernatural in the report, but it was quickly deleted. However, the report had already appeared, and there were screenshots. Even if it was deleted, it couldn't stop the article from spreading. However, this wasn't the end. In a short time, several similar accidents happened. The cars suddenly crashed into each other. The car owners were in a daze and didn't know how such a thing happened. They only woke up after the accident and were shocked by themselves. Fortunately, no one died in the accident. The most serious was just a concussion, and they would be fine after a period of rest. However, this kind of mass supernatural event attracted a lot of attention, and the relevant departments couldn't control it even if they wanted to. This wasn't just one incident, but several. There were hundreds of people involved, and countless onlookers. Many of them were young people. Young people were curious. Under such circumstances, how could the relevant departments control the news? He has become even stronger. Shi Shang rested his chin on his hand as he watched the news. I can't believe they used such a flawed method. But it's quite useful. At least they can improve their strength quickly. He has been increasing his strength recently. He should be looking for an opportunity to make a move on me. The black shadow was very hostile towards him and wanted to chase him away from her. Are you tired of living? Shi Shang snorted and turned off the screen. Even Mu Bai did not dare to lay a hand on his wife. This thing that appeared out of nowhere really had guts. The cold light shone on the tall buildings, outlining countless demons and monsters. The white-collar worker who had just finished her night shift hurriedly walked forward. After that, she even started running. The sound of her high-heeled shoes stepping on the ground echoed in the silent street. It was eerie and terrifying. While running, the white-collar worker sprained her ankle in her high heels and fell to the side of the road. The street lamp illuminated her frightened expression. She stared in one direction, and the fear in her eyes magnified as if she had seen something terrifying. Stop! A shout exploded from the ground. The white-collar worker was helped up from behind. Run! The white-collar worker's survival instinct took over. After the person told her to run, she ran away without looking back. Just as the white-collar worker ran away, a figure appeared out of nowhere. The figure swayed and appeared in front of the fake Ji Tong in an instant. Cold fingers grabbed her neck. Mind your own business. His speed was too fast. The fake Ji Tong could not dodge at all. Now that she was grabbed by the throat, she panicked. She could feel that the Yin spirit in front of her was stronger than any she had seen before. The fake Ji Tong quickly took out a few talismans from her pocket and pressed them on the black shadow's forehead. The talismans were somewhat effective. The black shadow was forced to take a few steps back. The fake Ji Tong had time to catch her breath. She immediately got up and ran in a direction. Brother Xie was there. She just needed to lure the Yin spirit there. She ran and looked back, but saw that the Yin spirit was standing in the same place. He did not chase after her at all. The fake Ji Tong felt strange. She followed the Yin spirit's gaze and saw a woman walking out of the darkness. Her steps were neither fast nor slow, as if she was taking a stroll. She walked out of the darkness and into the moonlight. The buildings behind her seemed to be twisted into strange shapes. Against her figure, there was only strangeness and eeriness. A human who was scarier than a ghost. That was the only thought in the fake Ji Tong's mind. She seemed to have said something to the Yin spirit. The Yin spirit's power went berserk, and he pounced on her. The fake Ji Tong stopped and watched the battle between the human and the ghost. She actually felt some hope in her heart. She hoped that she would die just like that. The fake Ji Tong was shocked by her own thoughts. How could she have such thoughts? A strong wind swept over, bringing with it a gloomy chill. The fake Ji Tong could not help but shiver. She looked up again, but she did not see the black shadow. She only saw the woman standing alone under the moonlight. The iron sword in her hand reflected the sparkling light. It scattered on the glass windows around her like crushed diamonds. Is that Yin spirit dead? No. A chill suddenly rose in the fake Ji Tong's heart. She turned around and wanted to run, but she could not move her body. There was something cold on her back, and a pair of cold hands appeared on her neck again. Shi Shang walked over slowly with his sword. His gaze went past her and landed behind her. He had a faint smile on his face. Kill her. If you kill her, I will be very grateful to you. Then, I will give you a quick death. You are my bride. Why are you with someone else? The Yin spirit only held on to the fake Ji Tong. He did not use any strength. He questioned Shi Shang angrily. Your bride? Your bride died a long time ago. Am I someone you can covet? Shi Shang's expression was indifferent. The moonlight fell into his pitch-black eyes, and they were cold. You and I have a ghost contract. You are my bride. Why did you betray me? Was it that man who seduced you? The Yin spirit's emotions were unstable. He tightened and loosened his grip on the fake Ji Tong's hand. The fake Ji Tong's expression changed along with his movements. Please, big brother. I don't even know you. Don't accuse me of betrayal, okay? You don't know her. The Yin spirit's tone became sharp, like a sharp weapon scraping against porcelain. It was so piercing that it hurt her eardrums. You were the one who vowed to be with me. How dare you say that you don't know her? Oh, the person you are talking about is already dead. She died in the bridal sedan. As for the vow she made at that time, she was completely forced. It was not voluntary. Do you still have to question it? The villagers in that village were not ordinary people. They worshipped a Yin spirit for generations, and this Yin spirit was the man in front of her. Chapter 15:21. In the beginning, the spirit was in a deep slumber. Rather than worshipping it, the villagers were more like watching over it. However, one day, the villagers noticed that the spirit was showing signs of waking up. In order to prevent the spirit from causing trouble after waking up, they came up with this idea. They wanted people to make a pact with the spirit. However, how could they bear to let their children do such a thing? Therefore, the original host, an outsider, became their first choice. Most importantly, some people wanted the original host to be trapped there forever. The original host was drugged by the villagers, who led her to make a vow and make a pact with the spirit. You betrayed me, you betrayed me. I want to kill him, kill him. The spirit's body kept twisting as it roared ferociously. He took you away. You're mine, you're mine. Shi Shang's face gradually darkened. The villagers were the instigators of this matter. If it weren't for them, the original host wouldn't have lost her memory and wouldn't have been trapped there for no reason. She also wouldn't have made a pact with the spirit. Yes, the original host's memory loss was also related to the villagers. And this matter, was also inextricably linked to the female lead. Shi Shang's mouth twitched. You want to kill him? Are you qualified? Do you think a retard like you can touch eyes, people? Do you think I'm just a decoration? Shi Shang rushed over with his sword. The spirit's body flashed and disappeared into the fake Ji Tong's body. The fake Ji Tong's eyes suddenly changed, from fear to dullness, and then to viciousness and treacherousness. You're mine. She stared at Shi Shang, who was rushing over. The corners of her mouth curved into a strange smile as she kept repeating these 4 words. I'm your second uncle. Shi Shang didn't hesitate and slashed at the fake Ji Tong. The spirit didn't care about this body, so it directly confronted Shi Shang. Then, it realized that this body seemed to have the ability to protect itself. It could dissolve its attack and even counterattack automatically. With this discovery, the spirit laughed even more wildly. It was going to get her. It wanted to get her, and then make her obediently submit to it in front of that thing. It wanted to show that thing who was the winner. Ha 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 ha. The more he thought about it, the more exhilarated he felt. The Yin spirit immediately manipulated the fake Ji Tong's body and quickly flashed around Shi Shang. Compared to the fake Ji Tong's ability, the difference was like heaven and earth. Now that a Yin spirit in the sky had taken control of a body with the female lead's halo, wouldn't he be able to ascend to the heavens? However, Tian Shang would let him know what was called daydreaming. Just as the Yin spirit was about to grab hold of the fake Shi Shang, his body suddenly bounced out of the fake Ji Tong's body. Then, a binding force gathered around him from all directions, trapping him in an extremely small space. What happened? The Yin spirit tried to rush out of the space, but no matter how hard he tried, it was to no avail. Instead, the space kept shrinking. Only then did the Yin spirit look at the Shi Shang in fear. Shi Shang held a palm-sized spirit tablet and looked at him indifferently. With your abilities, do you think you could have survived until now if you hadn't hidden by the dark contract? That was the spirit tablet that was placed in the mansion to suppress him. I'm your husband, you can't do this to me. The Yin spirit roared at the Shi Shang. Let me out. We're married. I'm your husband. Go to hell and find your wife. Shi Shang paused and smiled evilly. Ah no, you'll be reduced to ashes if you die. You won't be able to find your wife. What a pity. You can't kill me. I have a dark contract with you. You can't kill me. The Yin spirit suddenly calmed down. If you kill me, you'll die too. Ha 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 ha, you can't kill me. Shi Shang sneered. I can't kill you, but he can. What? The Yin spirit looked at the man who walked out from the other side. Instantly, spikes appeared all over his body. His roar became sharper. Why do you like him? What's so good about him? He's neither a human nor a ghost. Why do you like him? Shi Shang raised his eyebrows and walked over to Sun Che. The corners of his mouth curled up naturally. Because I like him. The Yin spirit's expression froze. Because of the shrinking space, his body was also shrinking. At this moment, he looked only the size of a child. Sun Che took the spirit tablet from Shi Shang and walked over to the Yin spirit. Shi Shang watched as Sun Che put the screaming Yin spirit into the spirit tablet. If this Yin spirit had asked her to remove the dark contract immediately, she would have agreed even if she had to pay a price. After all, he was also a victim. However, he secretly wanted to get her and even dared to lay his hands on Feng Ci. He couldn't blame her. Those who dared to lay their hands on Feng Ci deserved to die. Sun Che returned the spirit tablet to Shi Shang and looked at the fake Ji Tong on the ground. What about her? Shi Shang rolled up his sleeves. Good. Let's get rid of her together. Sun Che thought Shi Shang was going to kill her. However, she flipped the fake Ji Tong over and laid her flat on the ground. Then, she took out a piece of paper and drew something around the fake Ji Tong according to the drawing on the paper. As soon as Shi Shang finished drawing, an angry roar came from afar. Ji Tong, what are you doing? Xie Wangqi quickly ran over with a few people and glared at her. Of course I'm taking back what belongs to me. Shi Shang bent down and pulled the jade guanyin off the fake Ji Tong's neck. His voice was cold. She has occupied my name and identity for so long. It's time to return them to me. She didn't know how to make the strange connection between them disappear before. However, in that village, she knew everything. Shi Shang rinsed the jade guanyin several times with spiritual energy and put a new string on it before hanging it back around her neck. As soon as the jade guanyin returned to her body, the wandering ghosts in the distance disappeared before her eyes. The world was peaceful again. The original owner's ability to see ghosts was innate. This jade guanyin was used to suppress the original owner's ability to see ghosts. However, people who didn't have this ability would be able to see ghosts after getting the jade guanyin. Xie Wangqi stood outside and watched Shi Shang's actions without any reaction. He glanced at the fake Ji Tong on the ground and asked in a deep voice, "Who is she?" If she was the real Ji Tong, then who was she? Maybe it was Shi Shang's mysterious methods and arrogant aura that made Xie Wangqi feel that she didn't need to lie. She had the ability and the means. Why would she lie? Shi Shang thought for a moment. I think her name is Wei Ying. Shi Shang held the paper and walked around Wei Ying a few times. Then, he chanted a few strange spells. Captain Xie, aren't we going to stop him? The people around Xie Wangqi looked at Shi Shang anxiously. Who knew what he was doing? Xie Wangqi only watched as Shi Shang chanted the strange spell. It was obvious that he wasn't familiar with it. Although he could read it completely, it seemed like he had memorized it on the spot. There was no sense of familiarity. As he spoke, the black and red lines around Wei Ying began to merge. They gradually turned into smoke and entered Wei Ying's body. Captain Xie, can you say something? *# today's Pulsatilla flavor votes ## monthly votes moi ## monthly votes #. Chapter 15:22. When all the smoke entered Wei Ying's body, some kind of shackle seemed to have been broken. Crack. A gust of wind blew past them, and their faces seemed to have been swapped. What's going on? How did they swap their faces? Captain Xie. What's going on? Xie Wangqi stared coldly at the person on the ground and said calmly, "It's not a swap. It's a restoration of their original appearance." Everyone. What did he mean? Combined with what Shi Shang had said about taking back her name and identity, everyone suddenly understood. They had swapped their faces before, and now they were just swapping their faces back. But how did he do it? How could two people swap their faces? It's probably an illusion. Anyone who sees her will automatically see her as someone else. They didn't swap their faces, Xie Wangqi continued. Ji Tong and Wei Ying's figures were very similar. Even their hairstyles were similar. When they stood with their backs to them, no one would be able to recognize them. Miss Ji, can I ask what's going on? Xie Wangqi saw that Shi Shang was about to leave and hurriedly called out to her. Why would something like this happen to her and Wei Ying? Why? Shi Shang glanced at him and rejected him coldly. Go and find out yourself. Do you think it's easy for me to find out? You think I'm a free Baidu encyclopedia? Dream on. Can you tell me? Sun Che asked after they left the street. He also wanted to know why. Sure, come and kiss me. Shi Shang moved her face closer to him. Sun Che was a little hesitant, but in the end, he leaned over and kissed her cheek. Before he could retract his hand, Shi Shang quickly planted a kiss on his lips. Fortunately, she only touched his lips and didn't do anything overboard. Sun Che glared at her. Did she want to die? Even if I die under a peony, I'll still be a romantic ghost. Shi Shang shook her head. Sun Che pressed her head and rubbed it. He said unkindly, What are you comparing me to? Treasure. Sun Che. Which part of her sentence emphasized the word treasure? Shi Shang seemed to know what he was thinking. She said smoothly, The peony is the national flower. If it's not treasure, then what is it? Sun Che. He didn't know if he could strangle her to death and turn her into him. Of course, he couldn't bear to do it in the end. She still felt more comfortable with Nuanyuan. Sun Che hooked his fingers around Shi Shang's. His cold fingertips instantly warmed up, and the coldness between his eyebrows seemed to fade. Don't change the subject. Tell me what happened. Shi Shang put his entire palm on Hua Xiaohing's chest to warm him up. Have you heard about my disappearance a year ago? Sun Che nodded. He didn't know before, but he found out later. I had an accident and was saved by a villager. The villager made me lose my memory before I woke up. Don't you think they are cruel? Without my memories, I could only live in that village. Yes, that Yin spirit was also provoked in that village. Sun Che tilted his head. You said you were going to kill them? Yes. It was then that I found out something. Shi Sheng sighed. The female lead was called Wei Ying. Wei Ying's mother was from the village. When she was young, she went out and met Wei Ying's father. However, they didn't get together because of love. Wei Ying's father mistook her mother for someone he liked. Wei Ying's mother knew that he mistook her for someone else, but because she liked him, she still slept with him half-heartedly. It was such a cliché story. That man was from a good family. How could he marry a village girl? Wei Ying's mother received a sum of money and was then abandoned. Who knew that Wei Ying's mother was pregnant? After all, she was their flesh and blood. Even if the Wei family didn't like Wei Ying's mother, they still cared about the child and allowed Wei Ying's mother to live in the Wei family. However, they didn't register their marriage. This meant that Wei Ying's mother could be kicked out at any time. She always thought that if she gave birth to a boy, she would be able to gain a foothold in the Wei family. However, reality slapped her hard in the face. She gave birth to a girl. It wasn't that the Wei family didn't like girls. It was just that girls weren't as good as boys. They could inherit the Wei family's property in the future. Wei Ying's mother was kicked out. She was unwilling to give up and followed Wei Ying's father all day long. During that time, she found out that Wei Ying's father liked Wei Ying's mother. However, Wei Ying's mother was already married to Wei Ying's father and was pregnant. A woman's jealousy caused Wei Ying's mother to run out and push Wei Ying's mother, causing the child to be born prematurely. The child was born weak and sickly. This child was Ji Tong. Because of the premature birth and some other factors, Ji Tong could see evil spirits from a young age. He was so scared that he cried all year round. In the end, the Ji couple went to beg the Jade Guanyin to suppress it, allowing Ji Tong to grow up peacefully. Wei Ying and her mother were completely abandoned by the Wei family because of that incident. Wei Ying's mother could only bring Wei Ying back to the village. Who knew that many years later, Ji Tong would accidentally go to that village and meet Wei Ying's mother, who had lost all hope. When Wei Ying's mother saw the Jade Guanyin hanging around Ji Tong's neck, she recognized it. At that time, Ji Tong didn't lose all his belongings. His ID card was still there. After Wei Ying's mother confirmed it, she destroyed those items. She brought Ji Tong back to the village and used a spell to seal Ji Tong's memories. At that time, Wei Ying was studying outside. Sometimes, she had to work part-time. She didn't come back even once a year. Sometimes, she would mysteriously fall asleep. In the past, she was a little sleepy because of her injury. Now that she thought about it, someone was behind it. That was probably the time when Wei Ying came back. That was why Ji Tong never saw Wei Ying. Perhaps it was fate, but Wei Ying and Ji Tong's figures were very similar. Wei Ying's mother spent half a year planning to replace Ji Tong's memories with Wei Ying's. Perhaps something went wrong during the replacement, causing Ji Tong to not receive Wei Ying's memories. Only Wei Ying had all of Ji Tong's memories. But that was enough. She sent Wei Ying back. With the Jade Guanyin and the illusion to distract people's vision, Wei Ying also had all of Ji Tong's memories. Although there were some small problems caused by muscle memory, the people around her all thought it was because of the injury during the 6 months she was missing. No one suspected anything. After half a year, Wei Ying completely grasped all of Ji Tong's habits. She thought that they were her own habits. So when Shi Shang returned, she had already replaced Ji Tong. Wei Ying's mother wanted her daughter to live a better life. She also wanted to take revenge on Mother Ji. After all, the man she liked Mother Ji. No woman could take it lying down. How could she not seize the opportunity in front of her? According to the plot, the female lead would definitely discover this secret at the end of the story. The grudges of the previous generation would gradually be resolved. Ji Tong was already dead. From the beginning to the end, the female lead was innocent. She was also controlled by her mother. So Mother Ji would most likely choose to forgive this female lead who had been her daughter for a while. Mother Ji might even accept her as a goddaughter. And the host? She died in that village and became a thing of the past. Chapter 15:23. If she hadn't come over, all these things might have happened. Unfortunately, when she first came over, she didn't care about the villagers because the original owner didn't say anything about revenge. Who knew that they would give her such a big surprise? She didn't mind taking revenge for the original owner. When they returned to the villa, Shishang and Sun Che were lying on the same bed. Sun Che touched Shishang's face and felt a little strange. "This is the face I saw before." "Huh?" Shishang tilted her head slightly. "Do the dead and the living see different faces?" Sun Che retracted his hand. "I think so. When I first saw you, you looked like this." Shishang narrowed her eyes and was in a good mood. "That's good." Sun Che didn't know why she was so happy. He stared at her for a while. "I'm going back to my room. See you tomorrow. Can't you stay with me? I won't touch you. We can each sleep on one side." Shishang pointed at the gap between them. Sun Che pinched her cheek. "No, you can't. You can't sleep well at night. You can touch me. I can touch you when I'm sleeping. Look at how much I like you. How can you bear to leave me alone in an empty room? What if I touch someone while I'm sleepwalking?" Sun Che. He couldn't persuade Shishang. In the end, he couldn't leave the room and shared half of the bed with Shishang. Sure enough, in the middle of the night, the person who was still far away from him came over and snuggled into his arms. Perhaps it was because she was too cold. She shivered and didn't move for a long time. Sun Che sighed and took out the box containing the inner core from the bedside table. He held the inner core in his hand and slowly absorbed it. The coldness in his body gradually disappeared. It wasn't good for him to absorb too much of the inner core, but this was the only way to suppress the coldness in his body. The next day, Shishang woke up first. She struggled to sit up in Sun Che's arms. Her limbs were so stiff that they didn't seem to be her own. She circulated her spiritual energy for a while before gradually recovering. She turned to look out of the window. She had to hurry up and prepare for her resurrection. Xiao Sheng. Shishang was shocked. She turned to look at the person beside her. The man was still in the same position. The quilt was around his waist and his clothes were pulled up slightly, revealing his smooth waist. The man did not open his eyes but called out to her subconsciously. He thought he had recovered his memories. Sun Che was awakened by the kiss. Wave after wave of warmth surged into his body. It was so comfortable that he subconsciously moaned. He held back the sound that was about to leave his mouth and stared at the person lying on top of him with wide eyes. She probably noticed that he was awake, so she calmly straightened her clothes, got up, and stepped on the side of his bed as if nothing had happened. Shishang changed his clothes and came out. Sun Che was still lying on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. He would act like this from time to time, but Shishang ignored him and went out to prepare breakfast. When he was done, he came in to call him. "I'm going out to get something. Do you want to stay at home or come with me?" "Let's go together." Sun Che immediately came back to his senses and got up from the bed. "You'll waste time if you come with me." "Then why are you asking me?" Sun Che sat back down. "Forget it then. Go ahead." He wasn't worried about her safety. She was the one who bullied others, not the other way around. Shishang wanted to solve this problem as soon as possible, but Sun Che was unhappy, so he had to take him with him. Sun Che didn't say anything, but he was actually very happy. Shi Shang could only use one word to describe him: arrogant as hell. Wei Ying was unconscious for 3 days. When she woke up, she found herself in a strange room. Her mind was blank and she didn't react. She just stared at her hands blankly. "You're awake." A cold voice sounded beside her. Wei Ying looked at him with tears in her eyes like a frightened deer. Xie Wangqi's heart softened when she looked at him like that. However, he felt very uncomfortable when he saw the face that disgusted him. "Your body was taken over by the evil spirit. You'll be fine after a few days of rest." Previously, this face belonged to the woman he hated very much. Wei Ying could feel the strange look in Xie Wangqi's eyes. She bit her lips. "Brother Xie, what happened?" She only remembered that she was held hostage by the evil spirit. "What happened after that?" Xie Wangqi's eyes flickered. "You didn't recover your memory?" He had asked many seniors in the past 3 days. He knew what method Shi Shang had used that day and why they were in such a situation. Wei Ying didn't have her original memory. Someone had replaced her memory with Ji Tong's. However, the illusion was broken, so she should be able to recover her memory. "Memory? I lost my memory?" Wei Ying was even more surprised than Xie Wangqi. "I remember that I was attacked by the Yin spirit and saw Ji Tong. I wanted to go find you, but the Yin spirit suddenly confronted Ji Tong. I don't know what happened after that." "You..." Xie Wangqi sighed and didn't say anything else. Wei Ying stole a glance at him, then quickly lowered her head, looking frightened. Wei Ying really didn't recover her memory. Xie Wangqi was certain when Wei Ying wanted to call Ji Tong and Ji Tong. If she recovered her memory, she wouldn't dare to call Ji Tong and Ji Tong. Xie Wangqi rejected her request with the excuse of her health. But this matter could not be hidden. In the past, when she used Ji Tong's appearance, Wei Ying knew that many people would turn their heads to look at her. But now that she was using her own appearance, although she looked pretty, she was only delicate and pretty. How could she attract so many people's attention? Ji Tong secretly asked someone to draw a sketch. When she received the sketch that looked exactly like her, she felt indescribably complicated. No wonder Xie Wangqi stopped her from calling Ji Tong and Ji Tong. She wasn't their daughter at all. It was her own face, but she felt like something had been taken away. Ji Tong must have done something to her. Xie Wangqi had just finished talking with someone and sent him out when Wei Ying ran over and asked him with red eyes, "Brother Xie, what did Ji Tong do to me?" Xie Wangqi gestured to the person next to him. "Take care, Mr. Li." "Mr. Xie, you don't have to send me off." Mr. Li was very perceptive and left by himself. Xie Wangqi pulled Wei Ying to a cubicle. "Brother Xie, what's going on?" Wei Ying asked anxiously. The cubicle wasn't big, and there was an echo. Her voice was a bit sharp because of her anxiety, and it sounded even sharper in the cubicle. Wei Ying was also shocked by her own voice and lowered her head subconsciously. Xie Wangqi looked at the sketches in her hand with a complicated expression. "I'm not very sure about this either. At present, I only know that someone has swapped your identity with Ji Tong's. She is the real Ji Tong." Wei Ying's fingers tightened and the sketch in her hand changed shape. She asked in a low voice, "Then who am I?" Chapter 15:24. Then who am I? If she was Ji Tong, then who was she? "Your name is Wei Ying. I don't know anything else for now." How many people were named Wei Ying in the country? How could he find out in such a short time? Wei Ying looked at Xie Wangqi in a daze. Wei Ying? Just a name? Although he felt that this fact was a bit of a blow to her, he could only nod. This was the truth. Who Wei Ying was, probably only the real Ji Tong knew, but that woman didn't intend to tell them at all. Wei Ying's expression changed. She wasn't Ji Tong, she was Wei Ying, but Wei Ying was just a name and nothing else? What was this? Impossible, I'm Ji Tong, I'm not Wei Ying. What did that woman do to me? It's her, it's all her fault. Wei Ying suddenly shouted, her expression full of despair and struggle. How could she be Wei Ying? She was Ji Tong. She wasn't Wei Ying. In her memory, she was Ji Tong. She had been Ji Tong since she was young. From a rich family's daughter with parents to suddenly become someone who only knew her name, it was hard to accept. Wei Ying's overreaction was within Xie Wangqi's expectations, but he didn't expect her reaction to be so big. We'll investigate this matter thoroughly. Don't worry, I'll arrange a place for you to stay. Take care of your body first. I don't believe it. Wei Ying didn't seem to hear Xie Wangqi. She opened the door and ran out. Wei Ying. Xie Wangqi chased after her and grabbed her arm. Where are you going? Let go of me. Wei Ying struggled. Xie Wangqi saw that people were looking at them and dragged her in without any explanation. Let go of me, let go of me, let me go. Wei Ying punched and kicked Xie Wangqi, trying to break free from his hands, but she was no match for Xie Wangqi's strength. Xie Wangqi pressed Wei Ying into the chair, his expression much colder than before. Calm down, we're still investigating this matter. What's the point of making a fuss now? Wei Ying froze, then a cold smile appeared on her lips. Didn't you believe her? She didn't believe it. That woman must have done something to her to make her like this. Wei Ying's expression displeased Xie Wangqi. He stood up straight and looked down at her. Wei Ying was a little scared by his stare. It was very similar to the first time she met him, when his eyes were cold to the bone. On second thought, she was right. Wei Ying pushed Xie Wangqi away and ran out again. This time, Xie Wangqi didn't chase after her. He just watched Wei Ying leave. The people outside were pointing and whispering. He scolded in a low voice. Nothing to do? Have you solved the problem in the Li's village? Let's work overtime tonight. Everyone immediately fell silent and lowered their heads to continue with their work. After Wei Ying ran out, the first thing she did was to look for the Ji family's parents. She had been to the company many times. As usual, she walked upstairs, but was stopped. I'm sorry, Mississippi. Do you have an appointment? I'm here to see my parents. I don't need an appointment. Wei Ying continued to walk forward. The receptionist stopped her dutifully. Miss, may I know who your parents are? You can't just go up here. Call your parents first, and we'll let you up after we confirm it. What do you think? We are also working here. Please don't make things difficult for us. Wei Ying didn't listen to the receptionist at all. She kept walking towards the elevator. Security, security. The receptionist saw that she couldn't stop her, so she could only call for the security outside. Wei Ying was already in front of the elevator. The elevator doors opened, and Mr. and Mrs. Ji came out. Wei Ying's eyes lit up. She blurted out, Dad, Mom. Mr. and Mrs. Ji looked behind them curiously. There were a few people behind them. They asked with their eyes, who were they looking for? The people behind them shook their heads. They didn't know. Dad, Mom, it's me. Ji Tong. I'm Ji Tong. Wei Ying pointed at herself. Mrs. Ji felt that this voice was similar to her daughter's, but this face. Wei Ying couldn't have forgotten what she looked like. I'm sorry. I got the wrong person. Mrs. Ji was a woman, so her attitude was gentler. I'm really Ji Tong. Wei Ying wanted to get closer to them. At this moment, the security arrived and dragged Wei Ying out. I'm really Ji Tong. Dad, Mom, if you don't believe me, call my phone. I'm really Ji Tong. Wei Ying kept struggling. Mrs. Ji and Mr. Ji looked at each other. Mrs. Ji took out her phone and called her daughter. The familiar ringtone sounded in the hall. The hall fell into an eerie silence. Wei Ying took the opportunity to break free from the security and rushed to Mrs. Ji. She raised the phone in front of them. Mom, look. The call went through. I'm Ji Tong. I'm really Ji Tong. Believe me. Mrs. Ji didn't say anything. It was Mr. Ji who broke the silence. Take her to the meeting room. Everyone in the hall looked at each other. What was going on? They had all seen Miss Ji Tong before. She didn't look like this. In the meeting room. Who are you? Mr. Ji looked at her with a serious face that Wei Ying had never seen before. Why do you have Xiaotong's phone? Dad, I'm Ji Tong. Wei Ying was so anxious that she was about to cry. I'm really Ji Tong. This phone is also mine. Mother Ji quietly placed a mirror in front of her. Miss, I know what my daughter looks like. Although your voice and figure are similar, you don't look like her at all. Mrs. Ji suspected that this child was mentally ill. Otherwise, why would a normal girl suddenly say that she was Ji Tong? I'm really Ji Tong. Wei Ying was so anxious that she was about to cry. Her eyes darted around. I remember when I was young, I climbed onto a tree from the balcony because I was naughty. In the end, I couldn't get down. Dad had to get someone to carry me down. I was so scared that I fell sick for a few days. Wei Ying said a few things that outsiders wouldn't know. Mr. and Mrs. Ji's expressions gradually became serious. I remember everything. Mom, I'm really Ji Tong. I'm like this because of someone. Wei Ying's face was covered in tears. I'm really Ji Tong. Do you remember what I gave you for your birthday when you were 10 years old? Mr. Ji narrowed his eyes. 10 years old. Wei Ying thought for a moment. Dad didn't come back when I was 10 years old. How could he give me a present? My birthday passed a month ago and you only gave me a doll. Mr. and Mrs. Ji looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Was this really their daughter? Mr. Ji, Mrs. Ji, the guests are here. The secretary suddenly rushed over and knocked on the door. Mr. Ji waved his hand to show that he understood. He looked at Wei Ying, whose eyes were red from crying, and then at his wife, who was in disbelief. He ordered someone to watch Wei Ying and left with Mrs. Ji. After leaving, he asked someone to invite Xie Wangqi over. They didn't know Xie Wangqi's identity before, but they found out later. If their daughter really had a supernatural incident, it wouldn't be a problem to look for him. Chapter 15:25. The person Papa Ji and Mama Ji wanted to meet today was none other than Sin Che's mother. Sorry to keep you waiting, Mrs. Sin. Papa Ji led Mama Ji, who was a little out of it, into the room. Papa Ji secretly pinched her before Mama Ji turned around slightly and smiled stiffly at Mama Sin. Hello, Uncle Ji and Auntie Ji. The little girl sitting next to Mama Sin greeted them obediently. Hello, what a cute little girl. Mama Ji forced herself to be alert and praised the little girl. Papa Ji and Mama Ji sat down. Papa Ji asked curiously, May I know why Mrs. Tsen is here? Not only did she want to meet him, but she also wanted to meet his wife. If it was about work, there was no need at all. It's a little abrupt. Please forgive me. Mama Tsen's tone was gentle. When she smiled, she was like a gentle woman from Jiangnan. It's like this. You know my child, Sin Che, right? He's been with your daughter recently. I can see that the two of them really like each other, so I wanted to discuss with you when to arrange an engagement for them. Papa Ji and Mama Ji were in disbelief. Mrs. Tsen, did you make a mistake? Xiaotong definitely doesn't know young Master Xian. Although they were busy with work, they knew all about Ji Tong's friends and who he was close to. Mama Tsen smiled. I didn't make a mistake. It's your child, Ji Tong. Little Che said so himself. How could he make a mistake? But Mama Ji thought of the girl in the meeting room who claimed to be her daughter but didn't look like her at all. Why was this matter getting stranger and stranger? Mama Tsen saw that the two of them were still in disbelief and felt a little strange. Little Che is with Xiaotong now. Why don't you call and ask? Papa Ji and Mama Ji were speechless. If Ji Tong and Sin Che were together, then who was the person on the phone? Let me do it. I'll call brother and sister. The little girl took out a small phone from her bag skillfully and dialed a number. After about 5 rings, it was picked up and a cold voice was heard. Little Ning, what's the matter? Is sister there? Sin Ning held the phone and blinked her big eyes as if she could see the person on the phone. Yes. Can you let me speak? Sun Ning continued asking. There was a moment of silence on the other side. There was the sound of footsteps, and a moment later, there was the sound of a stream. Then, a slightly muffled voice sounded, "What's wrong? Walk carefully. Come over here. Stop. You stand there and don't move. I'll come over." Sure enough, the sound of walking stopped. After a while, Sun Che's voice sounded. "Xiao Ning asked you to answer the phone? Why are you looking for me?" "I don't know. You take it." Mr. and Mrs. G stared nervously at the phone in Sun Ning's hand. Mrs. G was even more confused. What was going on with these two? The blurry voice suddenly became clear. It sounded light and cold. "Hello, sister." Sun Ning suddenly smiled. "Are you with brother?" "Mrs. Tsen, let's talk about this when Xiaotong comes back. Is that okay?" Mrs. Tsen saw that their expressions were not right and guessed that something was wrong. She could only nod. "Okay, we should respect the child's opinion." After sending Mrs. Tsen off, Mrs. G's expression suddenly changed. "Old G, what's going on? Who is our daughter?" Mr. G shook his head. "Don't worry. We'll figure it out. If what Xiaotong said is true, then our Xiaotong must have suffered a lot. Old G, okay, we haven't figured it out yet. Don't worry. Let's see if Mr. Xie is here and ask him what's going on." Mrs. G forced herself to calm down and followed Mr. G to the meeting room. Xie Wangqi was already there, but he did not go in. Instead, he stood outside. "Mr. Xie." Mr. G went up to him. Xie Wangqi nodded coldly. "I know what Mr. G wants to ask me. Let's find a place to sit down and talk." Mr. G's eyes darkened. Xie Wangqi knew something. He calmly stopped Mrs. G, who wanted to ask directly. "Okay, this way please, Mr. Xie." Chapter 1526. Ji Yi's parents felt guilty towards their daughter, so they spoke very carefully to Shi Sheng. They were afraid that he would offend her. Shi Sheng felt a little helpless. One day, he caught Mother Ji sneaking glances at him outside the school. "Mom, are you very free? Why are you waiting for me outside the school every day?" Mother Ji tried her best to smile and asked carefully, "Xiaotong, I brought you your favorite pork rib soup. Do you want some?" Shi Sheng looked at the time and walked around the car to the other side. Mother Ji heaved a sigh of relief and poured out the pork rib soup from the thermos. "Be careful, it's hot," she reminded him softly. Shi Sheng held the porcelain bowl and sipped the soup. "Is it good?" "Yes." Mother Ji finally relaxed. "What else do you want to eat? Tell me and I'll make it for you. Anything is fine." Shi Sheng took a sip of the soup and glanced at Mother Ji, who looked like she was about to collapse. He sighed and said, "Mom, you don't have to be like this. I don't have anything against you. After all, it's not your fault." Mother Ji did not expect Shi Sheng to bring it up. She was a little stunned and tightened her grip on the thermos. "Then, why don't you come home?" Ever since she came back, she never went home except when they called her for dinner. "I live at Sun Che's place," Shi Sheng answered matter-of-factly. "Then you can bring him home." "We're not old-fashioned and don't care about such things," Mother Ji said quickly. "Mom, Sun Che's health is not good. The villa is full of spiritual energy and it's suitable for him to recuperate. I'll ask him when he's better. If he's willing, I'll bring him home." Mother Ji sighed. Now that she has a boyfriend, she only has him in her heart. Shi Sheng was speechless. "She came here for him anyway. Fine, you're an adult now. I don't have any other requests. Come home once a week, okay?" In the end, Shi Sheng could only agree to Mother Ji's request and come home once a week. After sending Mother Ji off, Shi Sheng heaved a sigh of relief. Elders were really difficult to deal with. "Host, you actually forgave them. Was it going to rain red?" Shi Sheng rolled his eyes. I'm a reasonable person, okay? This matter wasn't the G couple's fault in the first place. Besides, she didn't mention a word about forgiveness. Haha, you want to reason with your fists? Do you want to try? No, the system doesn't want to. Although Buttface didn't want to admit it, he had to admit that although Shi Shang had the same principles when it came to dealing with his elders, sometimes there would be some differences. She would not deliberately curry favor with the elders, but she would also not look coldly at the elders who treated her well. She was gentle and polite, as if she was a different person. Unlike the others, who treated her so well that she would still scold them when she needed to. If it were in the past, the G couple might have dilly-dallied and were unwilling to marry their daughter off just like that. However, after experiencing the previous incident, the G couple was afraid that their daughter would be agitated, so they didn't need the Tsin family to take the initiative and contacted them first. They wanted their daughter to be happier. Both sides were on the same page regarding this matter. Hurry up and get it done. Brother, sister. Tsin Ning's voice came from outside. She was so excited that it was as if she had taken stimulants. Shi Shang asked Tsin Che to open the door. Tsin Che was a little unwilling, but he couldn't persuade Shi Shang and got up to open the door. Tsin Ning and Tsin Che's mother arrived. Tsin Che's mother found that there was something wrong with her son. His face was no longer pale, but had regained its color. She hadn't seen Tsin Che since he came back. Naturally, she didn't know what had happened to him. Little Che, you? Tsin Che's mother looked Tsin Che up and down. In the past, she would feel a chill whenever she got close to him, but now she didn't. Come in and talk. Tsin Che stepped aside. Tsin Che's mother hesitated for a while, then led Tsin Ning into the house. Shi Shang was playing games on the sofa. When they came in, she had already sat down and was watching TV seriously. Hello, Auntie. Xiao Tong is also here. Tsin Che's mother smiled gently and looked at Shi Shang calmly. Did little Che give you any trouble? Yes, it was quite troublesome. Tsin Che's mother's face stiffened. Before she could say anything, the girl opposite her said, It's because I like him, so I like him too. Tsin Che's mother was speechless. The corners of Tsin Che's mouth twitched. He tidied up the messy sofa and went into the kitchen to make tea. Sister. Tsin Ning threw herself into Shi Shang's arms. Her big eyes sparkled. Sister, don't you feel uncomfortable living with brother? Tsin Ning was soft as if she didn't have any bones. Her whole body emitted a fruity smell as if she was delicious food. Shi Shang pinched her face. No, I don't. Little Ning, go in and help brother, okay? Okay, I'll make my favorite lemon tea for you. Tsin Ning got up from Shi Shang's arms and went into the kitchen. Tsin Che's mother moved to Shi Shang's side and looked in the direction of the kitchen. She lowered her voice and asked, Xiao Tong, tell Auntie the truth. Is little Che? In the past, he would never let them into the villa. The house was too cold and ordinary people couldn't stand it. However, today, he let them in without any hesitation. Moreover, she didn't feel cold at all. Shi Shang's eyes curved into crescents. I like him alive. Tsin Che's mother felt as if she had been struck by lightning. No one wanted little Che to be alive more than she did. However, she had asked many people to help little Che live in this way. She had never thought that little Che would really come back to life one day. Thank you. Tsin Che's mother choked. Her gentle demeanor was replaced by a fragile mother. Little Che came back to life because of this girl. Back then, she had paid such a huge price just to let little Che live, let alone let little Che come back to life. She didn't know what she had paid, but she was very grateful. A mother's gratitude. When Tsin Che came out with the tea, Tsin Che's mother was sitting on the other side with red eyes. He glanced at Shi Shang and the latter smiled innocently at him. Brother, can I live with you in the future? Tsin Ning was a child, so she was sensitive. Tsin Che sat beside Shi Shang and habitually put his hand on her waist. You have to ask sister about this. She has to agree. Sister? Tsin Ning looked at Shi Shang pitifully. It was hard for anyone to say no to her. Moreover, she was very cute. Aha, sure. Yay. Sister is the best. Xiao Ning wants to sleep with sister. Xin Ning ran around the house happily like a butterfly. Xin Chei's expression darkened when he heard Xin Ning's last sentence. He wouldn't let anyone sleep with his wife, not even his own sister. It was only a long time later that Xin Chei found out that love rivals didn't include gender or species. Most importantly, his wife liked soft and cute guys. It was impossible to guard against them. Asterisk, this is a fake group. Little Fairy, I haven't asked for votes in a long time. Cherub, don't you ask for votes every day? Do you think we're blind? Little Fairy, did I? I don't remember. Cherub, Little Fairy, I don't care if you believe me or not. I'm begging now. Cherub, no way. I'll anger you to death. Little Fairy, cold face, I'm not going to update. I'll anger you to death. Cherub. Chapter 15:27. Wei Ying was about to be sued by the Ji couple, but Xie Wangqi said that it wasn't appropriate to make this matter public and persuaded them to give up. Wei Ying was brought back by Xie Wangqi. Because she was emotionally unstable, Xie Wangqi locked her up and only brought her food every day. Sometimes Wei Ying yelled, sometimes she was very quiet. Today, when Xie Wangqi brought her food, Wei Ying was very quiet. She sat on the bed in the room in a daze. Hearing the sound of the door opening, she turned her stiff eyes and looked over. A gentle smile appeared on her pale face. Brother Xie. Xie Wangqi frowned slightly. He had a strange feeling in his heart, as if he wanted to comfort her. Many times, he had this feeling, but he could control it. Let's eat. Xie Wangqi put the food on the table. Wei Ying obediently got off the bed. Perhaps because she had sat for too long, she lost her balance and fell forward. Xie Wangqi was standing close to her, so he subconsciously reached out to support her. Wei Ying lay on Xie Wangqi's chest and burst into tears. Brother Xie, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Don't lock me up. I'm scared. I'm the only one here. It's so quiet. I'm so scared. Her voice was trembling like a frightened deer, and those who heard it could not help but want to take pity on her. Xie Wangqi did so. Okay, don't cry. Stop fooling around. I'll take you out. I won't. I know I was wrong. I'll listen to you, Brother Xie. Wei Ying grabbed Xie Wangqi's clothes tightly. I promise I won't fool around in the future. Brother Xie, take me out. I have Ji Tong's memories. It wasn't my intention to do those things. Brother Xie, I'm also a victim. Xie Wangqi was stunned. Yes, she was also a victim. She only had Ji Tong's memories. How could she accept it when she was suddenly told that she wasn't Ji Tong? Wei Ying was very obedient. She didn't cry or make a fuss. She did whatever she was told. It seemed that she had really thought it through and returned to normal. Xie Wangqi was a bit hesitant, but in the end, he couldn't persuade Wei Ying to beg him every day and let her out. She had been locked up in Xie Wangqi's house. After she was released, Wei Ying was very obedient. She helped Xie Wangqi clean the house every day, and she didn't ask to go out. Xie Wangqi gradually stopped worrying about her. Until one night, Wei Ying suddenly climbed into his bed. Men were full of vigor, and Wei Ying, as the female lead, seduced him. How could Xie Wangqi resist? After this incident, Xie Wangqi lowered his guard against her and even allowed her to go out. Wei Ying didn't seem to be interested in going out. Every day, she would wait for him at home and do indescribable things with him. At first, Xie Wangqi didn't realize that something was wrong. When he realized that something was wrong, he couldn't leave her. It was as if he was addicted to her. She seemed absent-minded when she was working. After a day of work, Xie Wangqi returned home exhausted. Wei Ying immediately came out to greet him. Compared to before, the current Wei Ying was simply a stunner. Her figure was graceful, and her eyes were seductive. Brother Xie, you're back. I'll make your favorite food. Xie Wangqi instinctively hugged her and pressed her against the cupboard beside him to kiss her. Wei Ying blushed and replied, Big brother Xie, I can't do it anymore. Let's eat first. Xie Wangqi suddenly froze. He pushed her away and yelled, What did you do to me? Wei Ying staggered from the push. She looked at him innocently and murmured, Big brother Xie, what's wrong? What did you do to me? Xie Wangqi approached Wei Ying, but once he got close to her, he felt that he couldn't control himself and wanted her. He dragged Wei Ying and threw her onto the sofa. His rationality and physical desire intertwined, making him look a little ferocious. In the end, his desire overcame his rationality. Wei Ying's voice was like a catalyst, constantly stimulating his body. After waking up exhausted again, Xie Wangqi knew that something must have happened to him. Big brother Xie. Yesterday? Wei Ying wrapped herself in a sheet and sat beside him. Her face was pale. Did I do something wrong? Xie Wangqi's body stiffened, and his limbs gradually turned cold. This woman. It's okay. I was too tired to handle a difficult case yesterday. Did I scare you? Xie Wangqi pretended that nothing had happened yesterday. Wei Ying seemed to be relieved. Big brother Xie, if you're too tired, then rest well. Your health is important. Okay. Then I'll go prepare breakfast for Big brother Xie. Wei Ying smiled at Xie Wangqi. She pulled the sheet away and got out of bed, revealing the marks all over her body. Xie Wangqi's eyes darkened, and his body began to stir again. He knew that he was very tired, but his body didn't listen to him. He pulled Wei Ying back and went on top of her again. Ah! Wei Ying exclaimed, Big brother Xie, what are you doing? Don't. You're going to be late for work. Xie Wangqi was indeed late for work, and he didn't look well. His colleagues noticed that something was wrong with him recently, but they couldn't see anything wrong with him. They just felt that he was very tired. Captain Xie, do you want to rest? It's okay. I'm going to see Old Master Zhao today. Xie Wangqi pointed at two people. You two come with me. The others looked at each other and didn't dare to persuade him anymore. They got into the car and followed him. When they arrived at Old Master Zhao's door, Old Master Zhao was sending two people out. Xie Wangqi frowned at the two people. A talented man and a beautiful woman. They were a perfect match. Hey, I didn't expect Sen to be so lucky. Don't worry, we'll definitely go. Little girl, you've helped me so much. I'll give you a big red packet at the wedding. Shi Shang left with Sun Che and met Xie Wangqi and the others face to face. Her gaze swept over him calmly, revealing a strange expression that was not a smile. The next second, the man beside her reached out to turn her face back and took her away. Xie Wangqi felt that she knew something, so he ran over to stop them. Miss Ji. What's the matter? It was Sun Che who spoke. His eyes were as cold as ice, but to Xie Wangqi's surprise, he was alive? Came back from the dead? He knew very well where Sun Che's vitality came from. But at this moment, he could feel that the vitality in his body was real. Only a living person would have this kind of vitality. The Sun family definitely didn't have this kind of ability. Only this woman could. This was going against the natural order. Xie Wangqi suppressed his shock and looked at Shi Shang. Miss Ji, may I ask if you know what happened to me? Guess. There was no need to guess from her expression. Please remind me, Miss Ji. Xie Wangqi humbled himself. He had no idea what Wei Ying had done to him. Even if you die under a peony, you'll still be a romantic ghost. Mr. Xie, don't overindulge. Chapter 1528. Of course, he knew that this matter was related to that matter, but he couldn't control himself. Whenever he saw Wei Ying, he wanted to. It wasn't his thoughts, it was his body's instinct. He tried his best to control himself, but in the end, he woke up in bed. Wei Ying was lying next to him, covered in marks. However, Shi Shang didn't explain much and left with Sun Che. Captain Xie. Xie Wangqi was pulled back to reality. He took a deep breath and went to see Old Master Zhao with his colleagues. Mr. Xie, sorry for troubling you, but this matter has been resolved, Old Master Zhao said with a smile. Resolved? Xie Wangqi's colleagues were a bit surprised. Yes, it's the little girl who was talking to you just now. Mr. Xie, you should know her, right? She's so good at such a young age. Isn't she afraid that the national culture will be lost? Xie Wangqi and the other two looked at each other. Old Master Zhao's matter must have been very serious for Xie Wangqi to come in person, but now it was resolved? Old Master Zhao asked Xie Wangqi and the others to stay for dinner because they had made a wasted trip. After leaving the Zhao family's mansion, Xie Wangqi parted ways with his colleagues and drove around the streets alone. There was definitely something wrong with Wei Ying, but what was the problem? Xie Wangqi's gaze suddenly fell on a shop selling surveillance equipment on both sides of the street. Normal surveillance equipment was useless, but the specially modified surveillance equipment could see many things that couldn't be seen. Xie Wangqi immediately had an idea. He went back to install the surveillance equipment when Wei Ying went out to buy groceries. At first, everything was normal. He didn't find anything dirty, and there was nothing strange about Wei Ying's behavior. This was when she was alone at home. However, when he returned home, a layer of fog began to spread everywhere. The fog circled around him, and he started to lose his mind. When he and Wei Ying were doing something indescribable, the entire screen was filled with a strange fog. It was so thick that it couldn't be dispersed. Their figures were blurry. However, in the fog, he clearly saw a black shadow appearing and disappearing beside Wei Ying. Occasionally, it would lie on his body and suck something. Xie Wangqi's hands and feet turned cold. He couldn't feel the existence of this thing at all. What was this? Brother Xie. Wei Ying's voice came from outside the door. He slammed the laptop shut and sat stiffly on the chair. After Wei Ying called him a few times, he stood up and opened the door. Big Brother Xie, it's time to eat. Wei Ying smiled sweetly. Xie Wangqi glanced at the table, his eyes cold. He grabbed Wei Ying and dragged her into the room. Wei Ying thought Xie Wangqi was going to give her an appetizer, but he tied her to the chair without any explanation. Big Brother Xie? What are you doing? Wei Ying's expression changed. Xie Wangqi held his breath and turned on the surveillance camera in front of Wei Ying. At this time, the room was filled with that strange fog, and the black shadow was standing behind Xie Wangqi. Realizing that Xie Wangqi had discovered it, the black shadow quickly returned to Wei Ying's body. Wei Ying's face darkened. She shook her arms, and the ropes that bound her broke. She laughed strangely and rushed to the window. She used her body to break through the glass and jumped down. Xie Wangqi didn't expect Wei Ying to do this and didn't stop her. When he went to the window and looked down, everything was normal in the quiet neighborhood. Xie Wangqi threw the laptop to the ground. That thing had been sharing Wei Ying's body. Whenever he breathed in the fog, he would lose his mind. Therefore, from the moment he entered the room every day, he couldn't control himself. Xie Wangqi suddenly remembered something. He rushed out of the room and went to the study. He skillfully opened a safe. There was a small jar the size of a fist inside, but the jar had cracked open. This was left behind by his father. It was said that it contained a kind of demon that was good at bewitching and sucking people's vitality. His father called it a demon. After Wei Ying's escape, Xie Wangqi soon received news that some people had mysteriously died due to exhaustion. Fatigue was a normal cause of death, but collective fatigue was not normal. According to some family members, the victims were not tired at all. They didn't work from 9 to 5, so how could they be tired? Xie Wangqi knew it was Wei Ying's doing. He was silent for a long time and finally reported it to the higher-ups. The higher-ups were furious, and Xie Wangqi was suspended. Everyone in the department prioritized capturing Wei Ying. Wei Ying realized too many people were looking for her. She learned her lesson and didn't kill anyone. Now, it was even harder to find her. Sun Che came down from the classroom. He heard a sound above his head. He instinctively dodged to the side. A book fell beside him. "Senior, can you help me pick up the book? A girl on the second floor was holding a pile of books. She must have placed them on the balcony to rest and accidentally dropped them. Sun Che looked up at her, stepped over the books coldly and left. The girl on the second floor was petrified in the wind. Sun Che walked out of the school gate and saw Shi Sheng waiting for him. His gloomy face brightened. He walked up to Shi Sheng and kissed her on the cheek. Shi Sheng frowned and pushed him. Where did you get that weird smell? I saw something when I came out, Sun Che answered honestly. Does it smell bad? Oh, so it's here. Shi Sheng cleaned him up with spiritual energy. She thought Wei Ying wouldn't cause trouble for her. She didn't expect her to target her daughter-in-law. Retards were indeed more daring. Wait for me here. I'll be back soon. Okay. Shi Sheng entered the school and followed the smell. He found Wei Ying, who was about to eat. She didn't use her own face. Instead, she used an unfamiliar girl's face. Wei Ying sensed someone coming. She growled like a beast and turned around abruptly. Her blood-red eyes met with Shi Sheng's. She was filled with murderous intent. It was this woman who had ruined her. It was she who had ruined her everything. The thing inside her wanted her to run, but she wanted to rush up and tear her apart. Sun Che's face was not pale. He looked even more handsome. Now, he was much more popular in the school than the second place. More and more girls gathered around. He looked at the school gate impatiently. She still wasn't coming out. If she didn't come out, he would go in and find her. Shi Sheng walked back to Sun Che's side amidst the screams of these girls. These students all knew that the two of them were together. Quite a few girls were jealous. They had to have saved the galaxy in their past lives to be able to meet such a good-looking man. Are you done? There's nothing I can't handle. Shi Sheng flicked his hair confidently. She didn't need to kill Wei Ying. She just needed to get rid of the thing inside Wei Ying. Someone would take care of Wei Ying. Wei Ying had killed so many people. Even if she didn't get the death penalty, she would have to spend the rest of her life in a special prison. The 44th world ended. Chapter 1529. For some reason, news of Shi Sheng's abilities spread throughout the circle. Later on, many people came to her for help. When she was happy, she would say a few words and do them a favor. When she wasn't happy, Emperor, I was too lazy to say anything. Therefore, everyone in the circle called her a weirdo. Who would dare to offend a weirdo who could bring someone back from the dead? Therefore, Shi Sheng's existence in the circle was something people could only look up to. What troubled Shi Sheng the most was that Sun Che never regained his memory. He only had vague memories. She almost killed herself in front of him. In front of him. It wasn't until Sun Ning almost burned down the house due to carelessness. Sun Che thought Shi Sheng was in there that he finally regained his memory. After he regained his memory, Sun Che still wasn't satisfied with his body and refused to do anything with Shi Sheng. Since he wasn't willing, Shi Sheng didn't force him. Shi Sheng always remembered his request. Before he regained his memory, he wasn't allowed to touch him. But after he regained his memory, he wasn't satisfied with his body. Ever since Chao Qing's world, other than kissing, touching, and hugging, they haven't done anything else. No matter how much she tried to coax him, it didn't work. If she knew this was going to happen, she wouldn't have cared about his body and let him do it. After all, she wasn't the one who did it. Even if she was angry, she had an explanation. Sadly, there was no medicine for regret. Ascetic Sheng wanted to save it up. When he gets back, he will make sure he can't get out of bed for 3 days. Shi Sheng and Sun Che didn't live long in this world. After all, Shi Sheng gave him half of his lifespan. Everyone knew that the owner of the wand was Chao Xian. That's strange. Where did the wand go? Did you see it? I saw her holding it. Who took it? Find it. Find it. We risked our lives to kill her for the wand. If it's gone, all our efforts would have been for nothing. It's not here. It's not here either. How is it not here? Their voices made Shi Shang's eardrums hurt. She felt like she was lying on hot sand. Her back felt hot and even the wind by her ears felt hot. Shi Shang struggled to open her eyes. There was a figure in front of her. She steadied her breathing and adjusted to the environment. It took her a while to fully open her eyes. Beside her were several figures wrapped in black robes. They were wrapped from head to toe, and their heads were hidden in the wide hood. It was impossible to see what they looked like. They anxiously searched the surroundings, but clearly, no one could find the necromancer's staff. Shi Shang closed his eyes and called out to Buttface in his mind. Buttface, help me. Give me some medicine. The system's medicine was much better than her own, so it would be a waste not to use it. No. The system rejected without hesitation. I'm going to die. Shi Shang lay on the ground motionlessly, as if he was going to die if he didn't give it to him. The host can already use this skill skillfully. Master, if I let her die like this, will you beat me to death? Although the system didn't like the host's threatening behavior, it had no choice but to help me. Its task was to help her not die and find a wife safely. The medicine took effect quickly. Shi Shang felt a strange force in her body. It wasn't like spiritual qi, but the principle was similar to spiritual qi. There was only dry sand in the place where she was now, and there was no spiritual qi. So this world doesn't use spiritual qi? Shi Shang lay on the ground and tried to figure out what was going on, waiting for her body to recover. The people who couldn't find the necromancer's staff gathered again and looked at the person on the ground. How could the necromancer's staff disappear? She's already dead. Could it have run away by itself? There's no one else here. The necromancer's staff must still be here. Could she have a space ring? Someone guessed. Someone bent down and approached Shi Shang, as if to see if she was wearing a space ring. However, just as he was about to approach Shi Shang, the person who had been closing her eyes suddenly opened them. At that moment, the man felt as if he had fallen into an abyss. Thorns covered with bobbed thorns wrapped around him from all directions, and then pulled him apart violently, trying to tear him apart. He sucked in a breath of cold air and abruptly took a step back. The people around him didn't expect him to do this. They were implicated by him and also took a few steps back. What's going on? What are you doing? You're scared by just looking at a corpse. Why are you so timid? Ha ha ha, he's always been timid. It's not like you don't know. The people around him reacted and immediately laughed at the man. They didn't notice that the person on the ground had opened her eyes and was looking at them expressionlessly. There were 4 people in total, and they were all dressed in the same way. Each of them held something similar to a magic staff in their hands. The style was different, but they all had a skull at the top. In the middle of the skull, there was a blue flame floating out of nowhere. The size of the flame was different. She's not dead, the timid person who was laughed at said in a trembling voice. Not dead? Don't be ridiculous. I just confirmed that she's dead. She's really not dead. Look for yourself. The man pointed at Shi Shang in horror and kept stepping back. The other 3 people looked at each other and then at the ground. Shi Shang propped herself up and sat up. Below her was scalding yellow sand. What she saw was also yellow sand and protruding yellow rock walls. Not a single bit of green could be seen. Occasionally, a hot wind would blow, blowing the yellow sand and making it hard for people to open their eyes. It was also accompanied by rolling heat waves. Shi Shang twisted his head and stood up from the ground. His vision suddenly widened. She was on a sand dune. In the distance, she could vaguely see buildings. They were all yellow. It looked like a desert, but it didn't. But Shi Shang was sure of one thing. This wasn't a modern society. I what? Shi Shang looked away and looked at the 4 people. He grinned maliciously. I'm not dead. Are you surprised? Surprise my ass. This was a scare. The 4 people seemed to know her. Although she couldn't see their faces, She could tell from their body language that they were very scared. It seemed that the host was a tough one. This was great. These 4 people were probably here to pick up scraps. The 4 of them kept retreating, using their bodies to express the word fear incisively and vividly. She's injured. Even if she's not dead, there's no way she can recover so quickly. Don't be fooled by her. One of the 4 shouted. That's right. She's so badly injured. How can she recover so quickly? She must be faking it. If the 4 of us go together, we can definitely beat her. I'm a little scared. If we don't kill her today, do you think she'll let us go? Obviously, the last sentence was the main point. The 4 people stopped stepping back. They clenched their magic staffs and began to cast spells at Shi Sheng. Their incantations were choppy and awkward. The flames on their magic staffs gradually rose and condensed into a fire dragon. It swept towards Shi Sheng with its claws and fangs. Shi Sheng narrowed his eyes and took out his iron sword. The blue flames hit the iron sword and splashed in all directions. They scattered into several beams and then returned. The 4 people were shocked. Chapter 1530. The 4 corpses were lying in the yellow sand with their eyes wide open. The magic staffs were scattered on the ground and the flames on the skeletons were extinguished. The wind blew and the corpses were covered in a layer of yellow sand. Shi Sheng looked around. There was no one around, but her intuition told her that it wasn't safe here. She had to find a place to receive the memories. Just as Shi Sheng left the sand dune, a figure appeared. It was also wrapped up tightly. When the wind blew, the figure was hidden in the yellow sand and disappeared without a trace. Shi Sheng found a crack in the rocks and squatted down to receive the memories. The original owner was called Wei Xian. The place she lived in was called the Undead World. There were 2 species here. One was the undead, which were the legendary skeletons. They lived with the soul fire in their heads. The other was the living, which was a necromancer like the original owner. Of course, there were also ordinary people. The undead and necromancers didn't like each other. When they met, they would fight to the death. A powerful undead could kill a necromancer. A powerful necromancer could also control the undead for his own use. The undead world was always at war. If it wasn't the undead attacking the necromancers, it was the necromancers attacking the undead. In short, the undead world was a very chaotic place. If you wanted to survive here, you could only rely on your strength. Wei Xian was an orphan, but she was quite pretty. She had a master when she was young. Unfortunately, the master didn't teach her much before she was attacked by the undead and died. Later, Wei Xian was adopted by a necromancer. However, not long after, this person also died. No matter who Wei Xian followed, that person would be unlucky even if they didn't die. The city she lived in didn't like this unlucky star. Wei Xian was chased out of the city. At this time, Wei Xian met the necromancer that changed her life. Necromancers were also divided into light necromancers and dark necromancers. Every species had good and bad. Dark necromancers were the bad ones. They were the disgrace of the undead world. They stole the power of their own kind to increase their own strength. Their methods were cruel and cold-blooded. They would do anything to achieve their goals. The necromancer that Wei Xian met was a dark necromancer. He saw that Yin Xian's talent was not bad, and she had such a special Bane star physique. She was practically born for darkness. A child whose worldview was still in the process of being established, had met a dark necromancer. It was easy to imagine what kind of teachings Lu Xian had received. There was nothing that Wei Xian had not done before. This time, Shi Xian was chasing after a person and snatching a spatial ring from that person's hand. Who would have thought that she would be heavily injured by that person instead? It was only when she encountered the 4 mages that she lost her life. Shi Xian's dying wish. She had to find her master's orphan and take good care of her. 3 years ago, her master was betrayed by his beloved woman and died tragically. Wei Xian only received the last message from her master, asking her to help take care of the newborn child. But when Wei Xian arrived at his master's residence, it was a mess. The woman and the child were missing. For the past 3 years, Yin Xian had been looking for that child, but unfortunately, she had not found any clues. Although Wei Xian's master had led her astray, he had treated Wei Xian well and had always treated her like his own daughter. So Wei Xian's dying wish was reasonable. The original host had a necromancer's staff. It was said that the staff could summon the strongest undead, but Shi Shang had not found that staff. The 4 people from before had not been found either, so Shi Shang's eyes narrowed. She had felt that the sand dune was not safe. It seemed that there were still people there. The person that the original host had met before, who had a spatial ring and had the strength to fight above her level. She was clearly about to die, but in the end, she turned the tables and won. It was most likely the female lead. Obviously, the female lead was not from the undead world. Outside the undead world, there was a wider world. This was the Xuanhuan Plain. No, necromancers usually appeared in the world of magic, belonging to the Western fantasy category. Magic, this made sense. The people of the undead world did not know what magic was. They used the cultivation methods passed down from generation to generation, but in fact, they were of the same origin as magic. Shi Shang did not use the method of sensing spiritual energy. Using the original host's method, he could indeed sense the active elements in the air. The most common element in the undead world was the earth element. So what Shi Shang saw was a group of lively yellow dots dancing in the air. This world is interesting. Shi Shang licked his dry lips, revealing an excited expression. Host, calm down. I asked you to find people, not kill people. The system's cold electronic voice reminded him without any fluctuations. It was useless anyway. It was just following the procedure. Shi Shang touched his chin and pondered. The staff is missing. Could it be that the female lead took it? It was too common for the protagonist to pick up the scraps when others fought. Although it was usually the cannon fodder who provoked the protagonist first, under normal circumstances, the cannon fodder would seek death for one of the following 3 reasons. First, to slap the protagonist's face. Second, to give the protagonist a prop. Third, to slap the protagonist's face and give him a prop. Wei Xian definitely gave the protagonist a prop, and it was a bit strange. Her first reaction when she saw the spatial ring was to snatch it. She did not think of anything else. It was as if she had forced her way to the protagonist's head. That necromancer's staff must be very useful. She had to snatch it back. She did not snatch the protagonist's things, but it did not mean that the protagonist could snatch away her things. She would rather throw away her things than give them to the protagonist. That was how willful she was. After receiving the memory, Shi Shang returned to the sand dune. The corpse had been buried by the wind and sand. Only a part of its robe could be seen. Standing on the sand dune again, the feeling of insecurity was gone. But face, do you have a prop to show me what happened? No. Bullshit. I used the camera before. You can see what happened. The system store is closed. Unable to exchange. I'd be a fool to believe you. Give it to me, or I'll die in front of you. You die, you die, you die. The system's face was full of you die. It was obvious how angry it was. Shi Shang. Wow, my butt face is amazing. Humph. Shi Shang took out the iron sword and slit his neck. You really won't give it to me? No. No. Shi Shang exerted more force in his hand. Seeing that his skin was already red, the system still did not relent. Shi Shang continued to exert more force. He wanted to see if she dared to commit suicide. Shi Shang narrowed his eyes and exerted more force. Blood splashed out and fell on the sand. In a flash, it soaked into the sand. Shi Shang's body slowly fell. But face was scared. Host, you really dare? Ah, I'm dying, my master is dying. End. Chapter 1531. When Shi Shang woke up, she found herself still lying on a sand dune. The sand had almost buried her. "Host, please speak properly. Don't do such a dangerous thing just because of a disagreement. Did Mu Bai possess you?" Shi Sheng touched her neck. The blood had already dried. She calmly patted the sand off her face and sat up on the hot sand dune. "I told you nicely. You didn't listen. You call that being nice? You're threatening me. I can't give you the item. The system store can't be opened. But I can help you rewind it manually. The time is not stable. You might not see it." Shi Sheng raised her eyebrows. The system didn't care if she listened or not. It directly projected a holographic image into the void. It was also a sand dune, but there was no one in the image. The image kept flashing. Then, a figure staggered into the image. She seemed to be exhausted. When she reached the sand dune, she collapsed. She held a white magic staff in her hand. It looked like it was made of some kind of bone. There were some patterns engraved on it. The top of the staff was a half moon with a skull embedded in it. The flames in the skull weren't blue. Instead, they were blue with a hint of purple. The sandstorm and the heat wave buried her body, and she fell to the ground, motionless. The scene was fast-forwarded by the system until the 4 mages who were wrapped so tightly that not even a strand of hair could be seen. When they saw the staff, the 4 of them recognized Gentle String. They first observed her from the outside, and when they saw that she was injured, they immediately attacked her. She was seriously injured, but the 4 mages were at their peak. She was no match for them and was killed by them. When Shi Xian fell to the ground, a gust of sand came from afar. When the sand passed, Shi Xian also fell to the ground. The magic staff that was supposed to be in her hand was gone. The magic staff was stolen right under the noses of the 4 mages. This was just a rewind image. Shi Sheng couldn't see how it was stolen. She thought about the space ring that the original owner was chasing. If the original owner was the protagonist, it wouldn't be strange for her to have a space that could store her. As long as she hid in the space and waited for the right time, it would be easy for her to steal things without anyone noticing. Otherwise, why would people say that the spatial ring was a must-have item for traveling, murder, arson, and disposing of corpses? The image was still flickering until she left the sand dune. A shadow suddenly appeared on the sand dune, looking in the direction she had left. "Tsk, see, I told you there's a retard. Mothaf asterisk cur, he's sick." The system retracted the holographic image, went silent, and pretended to be dead, ignoring Shi Sheng. It didn't want to talk to a psychopath. It would become a psychopath. Shi Sheng didn't know where the man had gone, so he decided to find a place to rest first. The only place to rest nearby was the city that could be seen from the sand dune. Most of the netherworld was made up of sandstone like this. Heat, yellow sand, danger. These 3 words were the representative words of the netherworld. Cities of different sizes were distributed in the undead world. Some were controlled by mages, while others were occupied by undead armies. Therefore, it was common for these cities to change owners. Perhaps the mages were in charge yesterday, and the undead army would be in charge tomorrow. This city was called the City of 10,000 Bones. It was previously occupied by the undead army, and was only recently conquered by the mages. At this time, it was still in the integration stage, so the inspection was a little strict. The mages here were all wrapped up tightly, and nothing could be seen. Naturally, the inspection was to check their abilities as a mage. Shi Sheng used to be wrapped in a similar robe, and it was red. She tore it off because it was too hot. When she got closer to the city, she realized that it was too eye-catching, so she was even more determined not to wear the black robe. When the inspection saw that she wasn't wearing the black robe, he didn't say anything and let her in. Shi Sheng. WTF? Did not wearing the black robe have the effect of invisibility? Obviously not. Shi Sheng only realized that many people in the city were not wrapped in the black robe when she entered the city. She searched through the memories of the original owner, and realized that these people were ordinary people. No matter what species, there would always be a survival of the fittest. These people were ordinary people who couldn't use necromancers. They could only rely on the mages and ask for their protection. These people were the most inferior in the undead world. Fortunately, they didn't have to fight in a group fight, but when the mages couldn't protect themselves, these people could only be the stepping stones of the undead army. Shi Shang walked around the street, and many people looked at her. Most of them were looking at her clothes and appearance. She didn't care, and found a shop that looked like an inn and went in. "Miss, do you want to stay?" The tanned young man standing behind the counter immediately put on a standard smile. "Our shop is the best in the city of 10,000 bones. We guarantee that you will be comfortable and won't lose out." After saying that, the young man was stunned. What a beautiful girl! The black embroidered dress wrapped around her curvaceous body, and on top of it was a light-colored waistcoat, which added a bit of playfulness to her mature look. There were tassels at the bottom of the waistcoat, which swayed beautifully as she walked. Probably because it was too hot, her sleeves were rolled up to her elbows, revealing her fair skin. That delicate skin was not something an ordinary person could have. Just looking at her arm was enough to make people's hearts ripple. She probably couldn't be found in the entire city of 10,000 bones. But then the young man showed sympathy. Unfortunately, she was an ordinary person. "Stay." "Okay." The young man quickly came back to his senses and handed her a wooden card. "I'll take you there." The houses in the city of 10,000 bones only had one floor, and they were all built with rocks and sand. It was easy to imagine that the conditions were not good. The young man took Shi Shang to the room. "Miss, rest well. If there's nothing, don't go out on the street, lest you get into trouble." The young man kindly reminded her. With her appearance, if she went out on the street, who knew how many people would want to snatch her back? Ordinary people like them were liked by mages. It was both fortunate and unfortunate. Especially girls, when a mage got tired of playing with them, they would pass them on to another mage. It was difficult to explain. Shi Shang slightly nodded and said in a cold voice, Thank you." The young man shook his head and left. It was a pity that someone was thinking about her when she came in just now. Shi Shang rested in the room, and the young man brought in some water and food. The netherworld had a serious shortage of water, so there was only a small bowl of water, the kind that was slightly murky. Fortunately, Shi Shang had the foresight to prepare a lot of mineral water in the space, so there was no need to worry about water shortage. This is a fake group. Little Fairy, the water shortage has been very serious recently. I need to replenish my water to recover my vitality. Cherub, please speak human language. Oh, you don't have to say it. It must be asking for votes. Little Fairy, shy, Cherub. What are you shy about? Little Fairy, you know me so well, you must have fallen in love with me. Of course I'm shy. Cherub, love? On. System, report, there are people driving here, arrest them all. System owner, disconnected, report failed, go home to play mahjong. We need one more person, do you want to come? System. Haha, you disconnected because we need one more person, right? System owner, shy. Chapter 1532. Shi Shang was studying the undead world in his room, and the sky outside gradually darkened. Once the sky darkened, the noise gradually quieted down. It was said that noise would attract the undead, so once night fell, everyone would be quiet. Although it was quiet outside, the inn was not very quiet. Many people were eating and chatting in the main hall. The waiter was so busy that he could barely keep his feet on the ground. Bang! The door that was already closed was suddenly kicked open, and it hit the waiter. Everyone in the inn quieted down and looked at the newcomers. It was a group of mages in grey robes, and they exuded an aura that said, "I'm not to be trifled with." The mages' ranks were divided by the color of their robes. Black was the general style, and all mages could wear it. They were also known as low-level mages. Grey robes belonged to mid-level mages, and blue robes belonged to high-level mages. There was also a type of purple robes. Mages who could wear these robes were all famous and domineering mages. The waiter cursed in his heart. These people must have come for the girl just now. These people's grey robes were engraved with a symbol. They were the ones who took down Jean of the city of 10,000 bones. This Jean belonged to the group of mages who could wear purple robes. People in the undead world called him Mage Jean. The grey-robed mage ignored the people in the main hall and went straight to the waiter. He picked him up and asked angrily, "Is there a woman staying here today?" The waiter subconsciously glanced at Shi Shang's room. For the sake of his life, he could only nod, "Yes." "Where is she?" The waiter swallowed and deliberately raised his voice. "The third room in front." He hoped that the girl would run away quickly, so he purposely arranged a room with a window for her. The grey-robed mage who was holding the waiter gave a look to his companions, and they immediately went to the room the waiter mentioned. "Kick it open." One of the mages stepped forward and kicked the door. However, the weak door did not fly as he expected. Instead, the mage was sent flying and hit the wall behind him. Yellow sand rustled down and covered his face. The grey-robed mages looked at each other and kicked the door at the same time. The diners in the inn witnessed the grey-robed mages being sent flying. "Who's in that room? There are so many intermediate magicians here, yet they can't even open a door. Did they not eat?" A diner who saw Shi Shang enter the restaurant immediately said, "She's a very beautiful girl. I guess Master Jean took a fancy to her and sent people to catch her. Who knew she was a tough one?" "Is she the girl in the black dress who entered the city today?" Someone asked curiously. "Yes, that's her." "Isn't she an ordinary person?" "How?" The diners suddenly quieted down. "That's right. She was just an ordinary person. How could she be so powerful?" An intermediate mage couldn't even enter her room. Creak. The shabby door let out an ear-piercing sound, and a black figure appeared at the door. She casually glanced at the grey-robed mages in different postures, and the corner of her mouth curled up slightly. "Why are you giving me such a big bow in the middle of the night?" "Everyone, it's not her." The grey-robed mage let out a low cry. The grey-robed mages were at least mid-level mages. They knew who they could mess with and who they couldn't. The force that sent them flying was definitely not simple. The grey-robed mages helped him stand up. One of the mages cupped his fists and bowed. "Sorry to bother you, sir. We've found the wrong person." "Oh." The grey-robed mages were a little confused by this "oh." What did this mean? The woman's voice sounded again. It was calm and unwavering. "Who are you looking for?" The grey-robed mage glanced at Shi Shang. "Sir, I'm sorry. This is our private matter. We can't tell you." Shi Shang narrowed his eyes and smiled. "Then how are you going to comfort me from the shock? How about using your lives to comfort me? Although it's not enough, I can reluctantly choose to forgive you." She was obviously smiling, but that smile felt eerie no matter how you looked at it. It was like a demon standing in hell smiling at the people who were standing at the edge of hell. The host's Chunibu disease is acting up again. Take medicine if you're sick. The grey-robed mage's back was soaked in cold sweat. This woman was definitely not an ordinary person. The evil aura and viciousness on her body were not something an ordinary person could possess. This time, they might have encountered a tough nut to crack. Most of the powerhouses in the netherworld had eccentricities. For example, Mage Jean liked young and beautiful girls. If it was in the past, their first reaction would have been to snatch this girl back and offer her to Mage Jean. But before they even met, they were dealt with. How could they dare to have such thoughts? "Sir, we..." The grey-robed mage secretly wiped his cold sweat. "We're looking for a woman. She stole something from Mage Jean. What good thing could that old fart have? I think he took a fancy to something that belonged to someone else and wanted to steal it." Although this was the truth, it was pointless to say it like that. The grey-robed mage's attention was immediately attracted by the way Shi Shang addressed him. The grey-robed mage was slightly shocked. "May I ask, what is your relationship with Mage Jean?" They remembered that there was only one person who dared to call Mage Jean that, and this voice, it sounded a little familiar. The original host and Mage Jean knew each other. Wei Xian was a complete dark necromancer, and Mage Jean was the kind of person who walked between the dark and the light. He was very sophisticated. Wei Xian had paid Mage Jean to help her find her master's orphan. The two of them had a cooperative relationship. However, it was obvious that Wei Xian didn't like Mage Jean. She had always addressed him as an old fart. Shi Shang looked at him with a faint smile and pointed to the last room. "Aren't you looking for someone? That last room should be the person you're looking for. Also, help me get my necromancy staff back." Necromancy staff. The grey-robed mage's body swayed. It really was her. The necromancy staff was one of a kind. It used to be in the hands of Wei Xian's master. When it was in Wei Xian's hands, it became a symbol of her identity. Was there something wrong with her? Why did she have to dress like a normal person instead of wearing a proper robe? Wei Xian's robe was different from the others. It was red and looked like a ball of fire from afar. It was easy to recognize her. Of course, the grey-robed mage didn't dare to complain. He knew how scary Wei Xian was. Even Mage Jean didn't dare to confront her directly. But she didn't have her necromancy staff. The grey-robed mage's thoughts turned 1,000 times. In the end, he suppressed his unreliable thoughts. Even if she didn't have her necromancy staff, she wasn't someone they could deal with. Luckily, they didn't offend her just now. Miss Wei Xian's staff was also stolen? The grey-robed mage asked carefully. "Nonsense. Why else would I ask you to steal it? Can you make another one for me?" The grey-robed mage was speechless. As the most badass mage representative, how could you be so righteous when your staff was stolen? Where was your shame? Chapter 1533. The mages in grey robes had surrounded the inn, which was why they had time to talk nonsense with Shi Shang. But now, they could not continue. If they did, they would be pissed to death. The mage in grey robes gulped and led his men to the room at the back of the inn. This time, the door was kicked open easily. Unfortunately, there was no one inside. Shi Shang stood at the back with his arms crossed. He asked casually, "She has a space ring, so she's hiding in it. Do you know how to cast a domain spell?" The mage in grey robes nodded. The domain spell was the first spell intermediate mages had to learn. It was used to seal a space. "Seal this place off." Shi Shang pointed at the perimeter of the room. And then, the mage in grey robes could not help but follow Shi Shang's train of thought. If her space can really store living people, we can't do anything if she doesn't come out even if we seal it. Blow it up. Shi Shang rolled his eyes. Can't you guys use your brains? Ask your master to buy more brain supplements. Don't be so stingy. The mage in grey robes was speechless. This had nothing to do with using their brains. They had only heard of a space ring that could store living things. They had never seen one before. How could they know how to deal with it? Although he was a little afraid of Shi Shang, the mage in grey robes still asked shamelessly, "Your Excellency Shi Shang, what are you going to use to blow it up? Ordinary things can't be blown out, right? Why don't you use a domain spell first?" Were these people retarded? The mage in grey robes came to his senses and quickly ordered his men to use a domain spell to seal the room. Shi Shang took out 2 purple balls from the space and tossed them casually. The next second, he heard the system scream. "Host, why do you still have these?" The energy balls were from the virtual world. She could not have brought them out. Shi Shang looked at the system in disdain. He replied to the system in his mind, "I collected them from Yanxio's dimension. Do you think I'm crazy enough to let the lightning strike me for so long? You said you didn't have any energy stones left. Are you lying to me again?" The system was going crazy. "I said I didn't have any left in my space. I didn't say I didn't have any in other places. What's more, the virtual world only emptied the energy stored inside. How could it empty my things as well? Are you stupid? The corners of Shi Shang's mouth curled up into a smile. The system panicked at the sight of Shi Shang's smile. It had a feeling that Shi Shang was implying something. Shi Shang tossed the energy ball and asked the gray-robed mage, "Is this thing strong enough?" "This is a barrier that all of us work together to set up. It's definitely sturdy." The gray-robed wizard patted his chest in assurance. He was rarely confident. Shi Shang was a little skeptical. She waved her hand and said, "You guys drive the others out first. Something big might happen later." The gray-robed mage was a little annoyed that his ability was being questioned. However, due to the threat of Lucien, they didn't dare to refute. Instead, they led their men to evacuate the other people in the inn. The group was chased out of the inn. Shi Shang looked around the room and said, "Give me back my undead staff now, and I'll forgive you for your rude behavior." There was no movement in the room. Shi Shang shrugged. Since he didn't want to pay her back, then he shouldn't blame her. She quickly retreated and threw the energy ball into the room from a safe distance. Then, she quickly jumped out of the inn. Boom! The violent explosion razed the inn to the ground. Shi Shang looked at the gray-robed mage group as if they were idiots. Her face was practically saying, "Is this what you mean by sturdy?" The gray-robed mage group trembled in fear. Once again, they were glad that they didn't offend her. "No, if that thing of yours was so powerful, why did you still need them to set up a barrier? Wasn't this an unnecessary move?" Shi Shang explained slowly, "Only by sealing the space can the explosion be more thorough. By using the space friction, the space ring will show its true form." Shi Shang looked at the flattened area and rubbed her chin. "But you won't be able to get it for the time being." The gray-robed mage sent someone to check it out. It was a very big hole. The hole was so deep that they couldn't see if there was a ring inside. However, there were strange lightning bolts swimming around the hole. They didn't dare to go down. "How long will this last?" The gray-robed mage looked at the lightning bolts helplessly. 3 or 4 days. It depends on my mood." Ha! This thing depended on her mood? Was she kidding them? The explosion was so loud that many people gathered outside the inn. They looked at the scene in front of them with different expressions. What was going on? Oh no, an army of undead is gathering. While the crowd was watching, someone ran over in a panic from the direction of the city gate and kept shouting, "What's going on?" The person was stopped. Why is the army of undead gathering all of a sudden? What are they trying to do? Attack the city? We're almost at the city gate. Don't block my way. I have to inform the others. The person who was shouting immediately rushed out of the crowd and ran across the street. The explosion was so loud. It must have alerted the army of undead. Why would there be an explosion all of a sudden? Who did it? How dare they mess with the people of our city? The crowd looked at the gray-robed mage group. Impossible. Even though the sound can attract the undead, they won't gather without the command of a high-level undead, someone said. Besides, the explosion happened not long ago. Even if they heard the sound, they couldn't have gathered so quickly. I think the army of undead has been planning this for a long time. Go and inform the mages. The gray-robed mage group went back to inform Mage Jean. The others stood with Shi Shang. The undead were divided into 4 levels: low level, mid-level, high level, and the king of the undead. The undead were buried underground during the day and would come out at night. Attacking cities at night was also something that the army of undead often did. The undead world at night was even scarier than during the day. At night, the undead would come out to absorb the essence of the sun and moon. When they encountered lone mages or humans, they would take the initiative to attack. However, they would not gather. They would only gather under the command of a high-level undead to attack cities or kill mages who were traveling at night. The army of undead was impossible to guard against. The undead were spread all over the underground world of the undead world. They could quickly form an army of undead in a short time and flatten a city. Where did the undead come from? In the beginning of the undead world, only these undead lived. They could reproduce and had no natural enemies. They had a long lifespan and a fast reproduction speed. Soon, the undead world was filled with undead, which seriously exceeded the capacity of the undead world. Perhaps the heavenly axiom could not stand it anymore, so the existence of mages and the undead were at odds with each other. They were like fire and water, so the balance of the undead world was reached. Now that the army of undead had gathered, it must be commanded by a high-level undead. High-level undead were much rarer than high-level mages. Their strength was also not equal. Usually, it would take a few high-level mages to deal with a high-level undead. If they were unlucky enough to encounter a king of the undead, then even high-level mages would be useless. They could only wait for death. Fortunately, the king of the undead rarely appeared. As long as humans and mages did not take the initiative to torture them, they would not take the initiative to attack humans. They would also not interfere in the war between the undead and mages. They were kind of like mascots for the undead. Chapter 1534. Perhaps it was because the people of the Thousand-Bone City were unlucky enough to meet the undead king, their mascot, today. When the news came out, not only were the humans shocked, but many of the mages were shocked as well. Some people might not even meet the undead king once from birth to death. Why were they so lucky this time? No, the undead king must have gone crazy. Why did the mascot have to go to sea? That was against the rules. The undead king. Why are we so unlucky to meet the undead king? Even if all the mages of the Thousand-Bone City worked together, they would still be no match for the undead king. Run, before they enter the city, we might be able to escape. The Thousand-Bones City fell into a panic. Everyone packed up and ran, while the mages gathered and prepared to fight against the undead army. There was only one purple-robed mage in the Thousand-Bone City, Mage Jean. There were a few high-level mages, but not many. It would be difficult to deal with the undead king. Don't ask why the undead king was so powerful. This was called the undead world. If the humans were stronger than the undead, would it still be called the undead world? In the chaotic scene, the screams of the humans and the scolding of the mages intertwined. All the mages in the city went to the city gate. Sher Shang squatted in front of the crater, eating sunflower seeds and looking at the crater. Most of the mages in grey robes left, leaving a few standing behind Sher Shang. Some of them were watching Sher Shang, and some were watching the crater. Sir Sher Shang, what are you looking at? The mage in grey robes asked carefully, aren't you going to see the undead king? Although he was a dark necromancer, both dark necromancers and light necromancers had the same attitude towards the undead. When necessary, they could even fight together. Of course, there were some perverted dark necromancers who were willing to fight alongside the undead. I'm more worried about my undead staff. Sher Shang stared at the crater. The mage in grey robes also looked at it. I heard that the undead staff can summon the undead king. Is that true? I don't know. I haven't tried it before. I can try it when I get it back. Sher Shang answered carelessly. The undead magic staff was left behind by the original owner's master. The original owner was very careful when using it. Even though he had heard of the rumors, he had never used it. Of course, Sher Shang felt that the more important reason was that the original owner of the body did not know how to summon the so-called undead king. She only knew a little about how to use the undead staff. The grey-robed mage wanted to push the Sher Shang into the pit, but he didn't dare. Was summoning the undead king something that could be attempted so casually? Soon, the sounds of fighting could be heard outside the city. Mages were chanting spells, and all kinds of magic lights appeared, dyeing the world outside the city with a variety of colors. This time, the undead army was more ferocious than they had imagined. Everyone retreated into the city in less than an hour, and the magicians suffered heavy losses. Wizard Jean. The grey-robed wizard suddenly stepped back and bowed respectfully. Master Jean was not very old. He looked to be in his 30s and was very thin. His purple robe seemed to be hanging on his body, fluttering in the wind. He pulled down his hood. He wasn't ugly, and he could be considered good-looking among ordinary people. However, he paled in comparison to the person squatting on the ground. Master Jin's gaze fell on Shi Sheng. He frowned. Wei Xian. In the past, when they met, they would always wear tightly wrapped robes. They could tell who was who by the things in their hands and their voices. Now that Shi Sheng wasn't wearing a robe, Master Jin was a little hesitant. Yes. Shi Sheng replied. Master Jin would not mistake the voice. He hurriedly squatted beside Shi Sheng and asked angrily, Wei Xian, how dare you leave me in the lurch? We don't know each other. Shi Sheng didn't even turn his head. Don't you want to know where the person you're looking for is? Master Jin snorted. Shi Sheng's hand, which was eating sunflower seeds, paused. He turned his head to look at Master Jin. Master Jin was stunned when he suddenly saw such a good-looking face. A strange light flickered in his eyes. However, the coldness in Shi Sheng's eyes was suppressed in the next second. He coughed and looked away. This woman was not to be trifled with. No matter how good-looking she was also poisonous. He didn't want to hurt both of them. Why aren't you wearing a robe? How dare you show off when you look like this? Are you crazy? It's too hot. Shi Sheng grabbed a piece of cloth and sat down. Besides, I'm so good-looking. Why do I have to be wrapped up? Master Jin. It's because you're so good-looking that I have to wrap you up. Shi Sheng continued eating sunflower seeds and asked casually, Did you find her? I found her. Master Jin said smoothly. But you have to help me now. The undead king outside is too difficult to deal with. If you don't help, we won't be able to leave Thousand Bone City today. We had a deal. I already gave you the item. Are you going back on your word now? The original owner had used a lot of things to get Master Jin to help her find the undead. Now he was threatening her. Damn, he had guts. Master Jin probably felt that they wouldn't have a good time with the undead king outside, so he decided to go with the flow. Anyway, it's like this. If you want to know, then help. If you don't want to know, then forget it. Those who threaten me. Shi Sheng looked sideways and sneered. They all died miserably. Do you want to be one of them? Do you think you can rush out by yourself? Master Jin wasn't afraid. Besides, you don't have your undead magic staff. Why should I rush out? Shi Sheng asked in amusement. If you don't rush out, do you want to wait for death? Once the undead army entered the city, they wouldn't let a single living person go. Do you believe that I can fly? Master Jin. This woman hadn't seen him for a long time. Was she crazy? She was still talking nonsense at this time. Flying? Did she think she was a bird? You're really not going to help? Master Jin gritted his teeth. Tell me now where the person I'm looking for is. Maybe if I'm in a good mood, I can tell you how to run safely so that you won't be trampled into a meat patty by the undead army. Master Jin snorted coldly. He stood up aggressively, as if he wanted to kick Shi Sheng into a hole. Who knew that in the next second, Shi Sheng would hear Master Jin's strong voice ring out again. In Song Willow City. Shi Sheng. Where's your integrity? Where's your modesty as a boss? Why did you say that? Can't you follow the script? I've already told you the location. Hurry up and help. Master Jin urged. He really couldn't stop the undead king alone. Otherwise, he wouldn't have compromised with this woman. Run from the back. There's only one undead king. It can't possibly split up and block you from the back, right? I asked you to help, not teach me how to run. Master Jin was going crazy. Shi Sheng spread his hands innocently. That's what we agreed on earlier. He told her the location of her master's orphan, and she taught them how to run so that they wouldn't be trampled into a meat patty. She kept her promise. There was nothing wrong with that. Chapter 1535. Previously, Sorcerer Jean wanted to kick Shi Shang into a big hole, but now, he probably wanted to chop her into pieces to vent his anger. He thought she was just making an example, but who knew that she was being serious? Did he need her to teach him how to run? He was so angry that he wanted to strangle her. Shi Shang sat calmly, and the sound of eating melon seeds was very pleasant to the ears. Sorcerer Jean stomped his feet and suddenly asked, "What are you eating?" He was still thinking about eating at a time like this. Could he be a little nervous? The undead king was about to attack. He was going to die, okay? Melon seeds, a must for watching a good show. Do you want some? Shi Shang replied skillfully. Sorcerer Jean was speechless. Someone, grab this lunatic and throw her out to feed the undead. Sorcerer Jean, the undead army has entered the city. They are sweeping towards us. A few sorcerers rushed out of nowhere and reported to Sorcerer Jean. Sorcerer Jean, let's retreat. We can't defend Thousand Bones City. Sorcerer Jean. Sorcerer Jean grabbed his empty robe in annoyance. He had fought so hard to conquer Thousand Bones City, but before he could even warm it up, he had to give way to the undead king. How could he not be angry? Sorcerer Jin's gaze turned to Shi Shang. Wei Xian, how about I give you a reward if you help me defend Thousand Bones City? He didn't have any enmity with this woman, so Sorcerer Jean felt that there was a high chance that she would agree. You can't even deal with the undead king, and you want to dominate a region? Shi Shang looked at him suspiciously. That's a great idea. Sorcerer Jean was furious. That's the undead king, the undead king. Have you seen the undead king? The undead king is much stronger than us. If you have the ability, go and deal with him. It was easy for him to say that. I don't have the ability, so I don't plan to deal with him. Shi Shang replied seriously. You. Sorcerer Jean was so angry that he almost couldn't speak. The sound in the distance was getting closer and closer. Sorcerer Jean suppressed his anger. Wei Xian, it's not easy for me to conquer Thousand Bones City. If we work together, we might have a chance. Shi Shang blinked and pretended to be serious. No, I'm weak. Master Jean almost choked to death. You're so weak, yet you're saying it so openly. Aren't you afraid that I'll slap you to death? Seeing that she had no intention of leaving, Master Jean couldn't help but continue to shoot his mouth off. Then are you prepared to wait for death? There will be a peerless hero stepping on a rainbow cloud. Oh no, stepping on a city full of bones to save me. Master Jean just wanted to throw this crazy woman into a big pit to wake her up. Was her brain damaged during the time she was away? He used to be such a cold and sinister person. Why was he so unreliable now? Master Jean. The sorcerers outside were anxious. What was Sorcerer Jean talking to her for so long? If they didn't leave now, it would be too late. Master Jean gestured for them to be quiet. Wei Xian, have you really gone mad? The expression on Shi Shang's face disappeared, and the words indifferent and heartless appeared on his forehead. The speed at which he changed his expression was as fast as the speed of light. She glanced at venerable Master Jean and then at the city gate. She sneered arrogantly. What can they do to me? Do they think I'm made of paper? Master Jean. Crazy. She just said that she was weak, but in the blink of an eye, she didn't admit it. If she wasn't crazy, then what was? He didn't know who was so powerful to drive her crazy. Master Jean didn't care about Shi Shang anymore. He hurriedly left the ruins and waved his hand. Retreat. What a pity for his Thousand Bone City. Not long after Master Jean left, there was movement in the big hole. The direction of the lightning changed and was gathering in the middle. Shi Shang's eyes flashed and he continued to eat sunflower seeds. The sunflower seed shells were all over the ground. The undead army had also arrived. The undead army was a group of human skeletons. There was no flesh, no clothes, and they were eerily white. When they ran, their postures were a little strange. It was as if they were looking at a group of robots. The bones made cracking sounds as they rubbed against each other. One undead making a sound was nothing, but when a group of undead made a sound, it was a little deafening. It was as if thousands of soldiers and horses were galloping. In the middle of the skulls, there was a blue flame similar to the one on the magic staff. The size of the flame was different. The stronger the flame, the stronger the strength of the undead. Some of the undead army surrounded Shi Shang, and some chased after Master Jean. The lightning in the big hole had already gathered into a small ball. Shi Shang finished eating the last sunflower seed and took out an energy ball from his space and threw it in. The second explosion made the big hole deeper. As for the lightning that had just gathered, it was mercilessly blasted apart and once again drifted around the crater. At this time, in the space ring. At the moment of the explosion, a person inside the space ring was blown away by a force and lay on the grass in the space ring. Because of the person's movement, the hood fell down, revealing a pale little face. She clutched her chest and sat up on the lawn, clutching her chest in pain. The space ring was affected by the first explosion. The space was sealed, and the airflow of the explosion was temporarily blocked. But her space ring was independent, so the airflow couldn't find an outlet and rushed toward her. Although the airflow of the explosion quickly abandoned her because the space seal was broken, she was still affected. Now, with the second explosion, she couldn't even hide the space ring. She could only watch as the space ring was exposed. "Master, are you okay?" A cat-like animal jumped to the woman's side, its sapphire blue eyes full of worry. The woman wiped the corner of her mouth. That necromancer seemed to know what I was going to do, so she interrupted me. The wandering lightning contained a lot of energy. If she could absorb it, not only would it be beneficial to her, it would also be beneficial to the sleeping Feng Xie. But that woman seemed to have seen through this. Seeing that she was about to absorb it, she suddenly scattered the lightning that she had gathered with great difficulty. She dared to gather the lightning just now because she thought that she couldn't affect it. Who knew that she would be so rude and choose to blow it up again? She's the dark necromancer who wanted to steal Master's space ring? The cat was a little angry. "Master, I'll go out and kill her." "No." The woman quickly stopped the cat. "She's very strong. Have you forgotten what happened before?" On that sand dune, she was clearly about to die, but she suddenly recovered and killed those 4 necromancers. The cat paced back and forth, its sapphire blue eyes full of depression. If only Lord Feng Xie was awake. Those ants outside aren't Lord Feng Xie's match at all. The woman spat out a mouthful of turbid air. "In order to save me, Feng Xie used too much of his power. I think he'll be asleep for a long time. We can only rely on ourselves here." The woman looked at the necromancer's staff and thought for a moment. "I have an idea." This was the real surprise. Happy or not, happy or not, happy or not, happy or not. Let's vote. Then give me a wave of rewards or something. I don't mind. Moi. Chapter 1536. After the second explosion, Shi Shang saw the ring floating in the middle of the crater. It didn't look like anything special. It was made of a silver material and was decorated with something that looked like a gem. The lightning in the crater was heavenly lightning. Normal things would turn into dust if struck by it. But the ring didn't even leave a mark after being struck by lightning. Shi Shang rubbed his chin and concluded, "This ring has definitely been tempered by heavenly lightning." Only items that had been tempered by heavenly lightning would not be affected by it. Yuri interested. There were so many good things in the past, but she had never been interested. Why did she look so happy now? Shi Shang smiled. "I'm more interested in the owner of the ring. Who else could have such a space ring other than the main character? If it was the main character, there would be a couple. He couldn't stop tearing apart the couple. Hey, host, you can't stop taking the medicine. Host, behind you." The system's voice suddenly rose, as if it had seen something strange. Shi Shang turned around. The army of undead behind her had opened up a path for a skeleton that was taller than the other skeletons to walk over, with graceful steps. Yes, that's right, it was graceful. It was tall to begin with, and there was even a piece of cloth around its waist to cover it up. When it walked over with such graceful steps, it looked especially strange. Its limbs were very uncoordinated. The undead king raised its hand. Hi! The skull couldn't make any expressions, so it used the fireworks in its head to form a smile. Shi Shang's mouth twitched. Mu Bai. Mu, undead king, Bai twisted his neck strangely. Miss Shi Shang, you seem so familiar with me. Could it be that you've fallen in love with me? Shi Shang. No wonder the undead king, who was always a mascot, would come out to cause trouble. It was because someone had changed its core. But what did it feel like to possess an undead? That idiot Feng Ci better not be an undead. He wouldn't let her sleep with him. Even a dog wouldn't be a problem. Our host's thoughts are getting more and more dangerous. I sympathize with little Princess Feng Ci. Why are you here too? Did you seek refuge with the mainframe again to come in and kill me? Shoo. Mu, undead king, mentally retarded White raised his finger and shook it slightly, pointing at the top of his head. Shi Shang snorted. What? Do you want to fight now? I'm such an elegant person. How can I do something so inelegant? At this moment, Mu Bai, who always kept his elegance in mind, ungracefully took out a jade slip from behind the loincloth on his waist. The flame inside the skull flickered, probably due to the fluctuation of his emotions. After all, taking something out from behind a veil was something he would never do in any other plane. However, he had no choice in this critical moment. I can't stay here for too long. Zero will soon discover me. There are a few sentences in here. You can read them yourself. Mu Bai calmly threw the jade scroll to Shi Shang and waved his hand. I will find a way to come in again. Mu Bai turned around and left. The rest of the undead army slowly followed him. So, but face, what did you say just now? Shi Shang asked the system. I thought he was here to cause trouble for you. Mu Bai used to work for the mainframe. Master said that he could not tell whether this person was friend or foe. At this time, it was natural to be cautious. How did Mu Bai get in? No, I don't know. Are you guilty? No, why would I be guilty? The system immediately retorted. It was not guilty at all, definitely not. Shi Shang laughed mysteriously and kept the jade scroll. The system was disturbed by Shi Shang's laughter, but it did not dare to speak. It was afraid that if it said too much, it would let her know more. Kocha, kocha. The sound of the undead army marching could be heard again. The undead who had just left ran back, and the tall undead king was among them. With one look, Shi Shang knew that it was not Mu Bai. Mu Bai would never jump in such a strange way. The cloth on his body moved up and down with the undead king's jump. Everything that should be seen could be seen, although there was nothing interesting about a pile of bones. Roar! The undead king stepped on the undead army and landed in front of Shi Shang. It roared at him. Shi Shang. He did not know how to speak. Could the undead king speak? The original owner did not know, because she had never seen the undead king before. Mu Bai could speak just now, so he should be able to speak. Just as Shi Shang and the undead king were confronting each other, the owner of the space ring found an opportunity to rush out of the crater and come out of the space ring. The woman and the undead king blocked Shi Shang in the middle. Shi Shang glanced at the undead magic staff in the woman's hand. The half-moon at the top of the staff was spinning, and the flames in the skull had turned completely purple. Shi Shang quickly turned his head to look at the undead king. The flames in the middle of its skull had also turned purple. Was it being controlled by the undead magic staff? The woman quickly confirmed Shi Shang's guess. She raised her magic staff and chanted a strange spell. The undead king seemed to understand it and roared at the undead army behind it. All the undead rushed at Shi Shang at the same time. Shi Shang. F***K your grandpa. Using Ai's weapon to fight against Ai. Where is Ai's sword? The undead were very difficult to kill. Even if you cut them into pieces, as long as the blue flames in their skulls were still burning, they could quickly reassemble. The only way to kill them was to extinguish their soul fire. Normally, mages would absorb the soul fire when they killed the undead, because it was useful for their cultivation. However, Shi Shang had a group attack skill that could kill a large number of undead as soon as he drew his sword. Naturally, he did not have time to absorb the soul fire. The undead were defeated by the iron sword, and some of the soul fire that had not been scattered floated out of their skulls. The whole space was filled with the blue flames. The soul fire floated in the air and floated in the direction of the woman. Shi Shang took advantage of the time when he was fighting with the undead king to take a look at the woman. My female lead is so powerful. Not only did she steal Ai's weapon, but she also took advantage of Ai's fight. Roar. What are you roaring for? Speak human language. Shi Shang glared at the undead king. Roar. Roar, roar, roar. The undead king seemed to be enraged. The soul fire in its head began to become unstable, sometimes bigger and sometimes smaller. It kept attacking Shi Shang, trying to tear him into pieces. Shi Shang directly threw 2 energy balls at the undead king. The blast of the explosion pushed Shi Shang towards the woman. Seeing that the soul fire was about to enter the woman's body, Shi Shang quickly waved his sword. The sword aura pushed the soul fire away and separated it from the woman. However, the sword aura did not disappear. Instead, it flew straight towards the woman. The woman's pale face instantly turned pale. She blocked the sword aura with her undead magic staff, but some of the sword aura still scraped her body, and she began to bleed. Chapter 1537. The necromancy staff that she had been holding tightly in her hand suddenly flew out of her hand, and the woman in front of her caught the staff accurately. She didn't even see how the woman got the staff out of her hand. She looked down and saw that her wrist had been cut. Blood was dripping from her wrist, forming a line. Only then did she feel the pain. It was so painful. Master! The kitten appeared out of thin air. Its sapphire blue eyes were filled with anger towards Shi Shang. I'm going to kill her. Let's go. The woman didn't listen to the kitten. She gritted her teeth and said, she was no match for this woman now. As long as she was alive, there was hope. The undead world was not a good place to stay. She had to become stronger as soon as possible. The kitten seemed to be unwilling, but it chose to back down under the woman's gaze. The woman and the cat quickly disappeared in front of Shi Shang. Their conversation didn't last long. Shi Shang had just gotten the ghost magic staff and they had already finished talking. When Shi Shang finished looking at the ghost magic staff, the woman had already left. She ran away fast. Roar! The undead king began to roar anxiously after Shi Shang got the ghost magic staff. It didn't attack anyone, as if it had lost its target and didn't know who to attack. Even the original owner didn't know how to summon the undead king, but the female lead did it on her own. She was really biased. Then the problem was, how could she get rid of this irritable undead king now? Shi Shang fiddled with it for a while, but still couldn't get rid of the ghost magic staff's control on the undead king. In the end, Shi Shang decided to use violence. Since she couldn't kill it gently, she could only let the undead king die. She couldn't run around with a mascot, could she? She would scare these idiots. She couldn't do that. The undead king was difficult to deal with, but a controlled undead king was not. Shi Shang killed an undead king, and the ghost magic staff in his hand automatically absorbed the soul fire of the undead king. As soon as the undead king died, the surrounding undead began to disperse. Some attacked her, and some walked back. Master Jean and the others did not go far. Firstly, Master Jean was a little unwilling to lose the foundation that he had worked so hard to build. Secondly, he had some doubts about the Shi Shang. Therefore, he didn't go far with his people. At first, there were still undead chasing them, but later on, the undead retreated. Master Jean, is it safe for us to return to the city now? A mage in a grey robe asked Mage Jean carefully. The city might be full of undead now. Aren't we just digging our own graves if we go back now? That's right, Mage Jean. Even if the 10,000 Bones city is gone, we still have other cities. We can reclaim the 10,000 Bones city when we have the chance in the future. Right now, we don't have the advantage in numbers. There's no need to face the undead army head-on. The undead king is in there, blah blah blah. If you want to follow, then follow. If you don't want to, then just wait here. Master Jin's words silenced those people. Although Master Jin did things insidiously and was extremely despicable, he still treated them well. He had never forced them to do anything. Now that they were back in the city, Master Jin did not force them to do anything. They were just worried about the situation in the city. With Master Jin's insistence, the group eventually followed Master Jin back to the city. The situation in the city was completely different from what they had imagined. It was empty. They couldn't even see a single undead, let alone the undead king. Where are the undead? Why are they all gone? Am I seeing things or am I dreaming? Why did you pinch me? I'm checking to see if I'm dreaming. Why don't you pinch yourself? F***K. It hurts. It's not a dream. The undead are really gone. The group quickly looked around the city and confirmed that the undead were really gone. Master Jin headed straight for the Shishang with a clear goal in mind. From afar, he saw a woman in a black robe sitting on a rock in the ruins that were even more dilapidated than before. She was standing on the skeleton of a giant undead and was shaking her legs while eating sunflower seeds. Master Jin was speechless. If he wasn't mistaken, that should be the skeleton of the undead king, right? Only the undead king could grow so big. She was using it as a stepping stone? F***K. What exactly happened in the short time they were gone? You're back so soon. Shishang raised his head and looked in their direction. There was a hint of schadenfreude in his voice. I thought you were all scared away by the undead. This undead king was killed by you. Master Jin ignored Shishang's strange tone and pointed at the thing she was standing on. Otherwise, would it still be you? He asked the question peacefully. Why was she angry at him? She was really crazy. Did you kill it alone? He didn't believe that a person could kill the undead king alone. It didn't make sense at all. Did you see the others? Shishang asked him back. Master Jin was speechless. He didn't want to talk to her at all. He suddenly realized that the previous Wei Xian was much cuter. At least she wasn't so annoying when she spoke. What kind of crazy things had she gone through to turn her into this? Master Jin never thought that the Wei Xian of today was no longer the Wei Xian of the past. Actually, it wasn't Master Jin's fault for not thinking in that direction. The undead world was such a place. 1 month ago, one's personality might be different. It was all a result of the environment. How did you kill the undead king? Master Jin moved closer to Shishang and carefully observed the undead king that was her stepping stone. He had only seen the undead king twice. The first time, he only saw a tall skeleton from afar. He couldn't see anything else clearly. The second time was now. He was observing the undead king's skeleton at a close distance. There's nothing special about it except that it's a little muscular, Master Jin mumbled. You want something special? A light female voice came from the side. It sounded like she was up to no good. Master Jin suddenly raised his head and met Shishang's ambiguous smile. What a beautiful face. Master Jin's mind started to wander. He could only force himself to think about the undead king under her feet to stop his wild thoughts. Shishang moved her foot away and flicked her wrist. The undead magic staff appeared in her hand. Let me show you something special. Master Jin habitually showed a hint of greed when he saw the undead magic staff. This was the magic staff that every master dreamed of. Before Master Jin could finish his greed, he saw Shishang move the magic staff closer to the undead king. The flames on the magic staff suddenly grew stronger. A small wisp of flames flew into the undead king's brain. The extinguished soul fire suddenly burned again, as if it had been reignited. The undead king's limbs started to move. It struggled to get up from the ground. Ah! It's alive! The people behind Master Jean screamed and jumped far away. You! Professor Jean also looked at Shi Shang in horror. She actually managed to make the undead king regain his soul fire. It's fun, right? Master Jean. Fun my ass. Chapter 1538. The undead king struggled to stand up. The flames in its head flickered unsteadily. Sorcerer Jean was worried that the undead king would attack him uncontrollably, so he quickly backed away. Crack! The crisp sound was like a needle poking at Sorcerer Jin's nerves. He froze in place. Following the sound, the flames in the undead king's head went out with a sizzling sound. Its enormous body fell towards Sorcerer Jean. Sorcerer Jean stared at the scene with his mouth agape. He only regained his senses when the undead king was almost on top of him. He dodged to the side and barely escaped death. I'm sorry, I don't know how to do it yet. An insincere apology came from the other side. Sorcerer Jean was speechless. Help! He was going to kill this lunatic. Only after Jean Mage had calmed down her frightened soul did she realize that Shi Shang had figured out a way to use it. She could use the necromancer's staff to allow dead spirits to regain their mobility. But she had just figured it out, so she wasn't familiar with how to use it. Sorcerers were able to control the undead, but that was only when the undead were still alive. No one knew how to control the dead like Shi Shang. Sorcerer Jean watched as Shi Shang tormented the undead king. The undead king kept falling, getting up, and falling. Sorcerer Jean silently wiped off his cold sweat. He wondered if the undead king would be traumatized if he knew that he was being tortured like this. Sorcerer Jean, what should we do now? Was he supposed to just watch her torment him? Well. Sorcerer Jean went around the undead king. Wei Xian, do you not want the Thousand-Bone City? She was the one who had chased the undead king away. He did not know how she had done it, but the truth was the truth. According to the rules, he would either have to fight with her and take the Thousand-Bone City back, or she would give up on taking over the Thousand-Bone City. Shi Shang tilted his head and thought for a moment. I don't want it, I'll give it to you. Sorcerer Jean was flattered. She was giving it to him? Wei Xian, don't tell me you've fallen for me? Sorcerer Jean backed away in fear. I may be handsome, but we're not suitable for each other. Are you crazy? Shi Shang put away the undead staff. The undead king immediately fell to the ground, unable to get up again. Sorcerer Jean. No, I'm not crazy, you're the one who's crazy. How do I get to Song Willow City? She still had to find your sister. Master Jean heaved a sigh of relief. So it was for Song Willow City. Speaking of which, this Willow City was quite remote. If he hadn't coincidentally arrived here, it would have been quite difficult for ordinary people to find it. Take the 10,000 Bones City as my reward for showing you the way. Master Jean immediately seized the opportunity. After all, you only told me to find the location of the person, but you didn't say that it included directions. Shi Shang rolled his eyes. If I want to take back the Myriad Bones City, even if you deploy thousands of troops, you won't be able to stop me. Master Jean. Can you be any more arrogant? Master Jean had given up a roadmap and obtained a 10,000 Bone City. Not to mention his subordinates, even Master Jean himself was amazed. However, he also knew that he could never provoke this woman in the future. If he could cooperate with her, then he would cooperate with her. If he couldn't cooperate with her, then he would pretend that he didn't see her. This was Master Jin's order to his men. Willow City. This city was indeed very remote. One had to pass through the sandstone area, which was thousands of miles away from other cities. If there was an undead army surrounding the city, it would be difficult for others to come to their rescue. Shi Shang took a few months to reach Willow City. Don't ask him why it took him so long. The undead world was ridiculously large, and he had to fly for so long. Willow City was so named because of the willow trees planted in the city. The kind of willow trees that didn't match the undead world at all. Willow City was like an oasis in the undead world. Willow City was considered a medium-sized city. In other places, a city like this would change hands easily. If they succeeded today, they might be attacked by an undead army tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow, sorcerers might take it back. They would never get tired of going back and forth. However, Willow City was very mysterious. It was as if the undead couldn't find this place. Even if they saw the undead outside the city, they wouldn't come close. Of course, in the beginning, Willow City was the same as other places. As for why this happened, Master Jean didn't tell him. Or rather, Master Jean didn't mention it at all. This was something that Shi Shang discovered after he arrived. After entering the city through the city gate, his vision turned from yellow to green. There was a moat inside and outside the city, and the air didn't seem so dry and hot. Sorcerers hurriedly walked through the streets. Commoners set up stalls to do business. Children played in the open spaces. This place was like a paradise. Shi Shang took out the route map that Master Jean had provided. He followed the streets of Willow City and found a house. The door to the courtyard was open, and there was a faint sound coming from inside. Shi Shang knocked on the door. "Who is it?" A woman's loud voice came from inside. Then, a slightly plump woman appeared in the courtyard. She narrowed her eyes and glanced at Shi Shang. Seeing that he was dressed well, she revealed a vulgar smile. "Miss, who are you looking for? You have a 4-year-old child in your house, right?" The woman immediately became alert. She immediately denied it. "No, we don't have any children. Hurry up and leave." She immediately chased Shi Shang out and closed the door. Shi Shang reached out to block it. The corner of his mouth curled up. "I heard a child crying." "You heard wrong. Where did the child's crying come from? Hurry up and leave, or I'll call for help." The woman raised her voice and pushed Shi Shang out. Shi Shang narrowed his eyes. He didn't fight with her and retreated first. The woman slammed the door shut. There was a strange noise coming from inside. Then, the child's crying that Shi Shang had faintly heard disappeared. The courtyard fell into a dead silence. Shi Shang turned his head and looked around. This was a relatively remote alley. There weren't many people coming and going. He walked forward for a distance and saw a woman sitting by the door, mending something. Shi Shang took out a few stones from the body of the previous owner of this body. These stones were the unified currency of the undead world. They contained energy. Sorcerers could absorb them. Although ordinary people couldn't absorb them, they could still exchange them for useful things from sorcerers. "Can I ask you something?" Shi Shang handed the stones to the woman. The woman was startled when she heard the voice. Her gaze fell on the stones and could not help but brighten. Then, she glanced at Shi Shang. Seeing that there was no one around, she carefully took the stones. "Miss, what do you want to ask?" Shi Shang pointed at the courtyard. "Is there a child in there?" The woman looked in the direction Shi Shang was pointing. Her expression changed. She seemed to be disgusted and afraid. "Miss, why do you ask this?" Shi Shang didn't answer. The woman packed her things and said in a low voice, "Miss, it's not convenient to talk here. Let's go inside." Shi Shang followed the woman inside. It was very simple inside, but it was very clean. Chapter 1539. They do have a child at home. He seems to be around 4 years old, but that child isn't theirs. I heard that he was picked up outside of Willow City with a woman at the time. That woman didn't stay with them for long. She left some things for them to take care of the child on her behalf before leaving. She hasn't returned since. The woman said as she poured some water for Shi Shang. That child has always been with them. They took care of the child with all their might because of the woman's belongings. Now that the woman has left without any news, how could they still take care of the child? That child is really pitiful. We would occasionally pass by their house and hear the sounds of beating and cursing inside. That's not the worst. A month ago, they somehow got in touch with a group of dark mages in the city. One of them liked young children, so they prepared to give the child to them. Shisheng frowned. Dark mages have nothing to do in the city. Ordinary cities wouldn't accept dark mages. If they wanted to enter the city, they had to keep a low profile and couldn't use any spells. If they were discovered, they would be attacked. Miss, are you from another city? This place is different from other places. The woman shook her head with a bitter smile. At first, Willow City was the same as other places, frequently attacked by the undead. But after a group of dark mages came, the situation decreased. Later on, more and more dark mages gathered in Willow City. Ordinary people like us didn't know what they were doing, but after they came, Willow City became better and better, so everyone. The woman gave Shisheng a knowing look. They just wanted to live well. It didn't matter if they were light mages or dark mages. As long as they could live, it didn't matter who was in the city. The woman sighed. At first, that group of dark mages was pretty good. They didn't make things difficult for us and only occupied a few houses in the north of Willow City, not allowing the people in the city to approach. Later on, a second group of dark mages came. Most of these dark mages gathered near those houses. They didn't show themselves unless the undead appeared. But the third group of dark mages wasn't as good as the first group. They were tyrannical in the city. That family got in touch with this group of dark mages. What's in that house? There was no way that so many dark mages gathered there for no reason. The original host was at the pinnacle of dark mages, yet he hadn't heard anything about it. Shisheng thought for a while. He couldn't blame the original owner. She was used to being alone. After her master's death, she spent all her time looking for her master's orphan. She didn't pay attention to anything else. Even if she heard something, it probably went in one ear and out the other. The woman thought for a moment. A rich family used to live in that house. Later, something happened to that family and the whole family died. The house was empty. There shouldn't be anything inside. What do they want to do with the child? Shisheng returned to the topic at hand. The woman continued, this third batch of dark mages seems to be treating Willow City as their own territory, collecting protection fees from us commoners. Those who were unable to hand it over were either beaten half to death or chased out of Willow City. That family heard that one of the dark mages liked young children, so they planned to send the child over so that the dark mage could take care of them. These dark mages had only arrived after Mage Jean had found this place, so Mage Jean had no idea about the current situation in Willow City. According to the calculation of time, it had been about a year. Since they planned to send the child over, why are they still keeping him? That child. The woman shook her head, her face full of regret. There are many injuries on his body. They want to heal him before sending him over. That was all the woman knew. As for who they were sending the child to, she had no idea. Shisheng left the woman's courtyard, ready to snatch the child back. Who knew that when he knocked on the door again, the house was empty. The woman and the child were gone. In the tangled alleys of the city, a slightly plump woman was carrying a child, hurrying in a certain direction. When she saw a building gradually appear in front of her, she let out a sigh of relief and ran over quickly. The mage guarding the door stopped the woman. It's me. I'm here to deliver something to Mage Sue. The woman raised her head, allowing the other party to see her face clearly. The mage guarding the door obviously recognized her. He pulled the child out of her arms. Seeing that the child's eyes were closed, looking like he was sleeping soundly, he let her pass. Go in. The woman carried the child and entered with ease. Soon, she arrived in front of a courtyard. There were many children in the courtyard, crying and screaming. It sounded especially tragic. They ran in the courtyard, avoiding the mage who was trying to catch them. The mage seemed to be very happy playing games with these frightened children. He caught a child, let go, and then continued to catch them, enjoying their fear. The woman gulped and carried the child closer to the mage. Someone reported to the mage. The mage stopped and looked in her direction. His gaze fell on her hand. "You brought it?" "Yes, Master Mage." The woman was a little nervous. "I was afraid that she would make a ruckus, so I knocked her out temporarily." "Put her down." The mage pointed at the chair beside him. The woman quickly put the child down. "Master Mage, Don't worry. I'll take care of you in Willow City in the future. The shop you mentioned before, I'll get someone to arrange it for you." Mage Su waved his hand. "You may leave." The woman's face lit up with joy. "Thank you, Master Mage. This child was not hers. Who knew if that woman would come back? Using the child in exchange for so many benefits was worth it. She would move when she got back later, in case someone was looking for her." The woman thought so and turned to leave. However, just as she turned around, she saw a woman in a black robe walking slowly in front of her. There were many mages behind her, all of them looking fearful and nervous. Wasn't this? The woman panicked and froze on the spot, not daring to move. They were not far from each other, so Shi Shang was in front of her very quickly. He looked down at her. "Where's the child?" His gaze was calm, but it made people feel cold. It was as if one look could make people lose the strength to struggle and let her do whatever she wanted. The woman was drenched in cold sweat. Her heart seemed to have stopped beating. She looked at Mage Su behind her, trembling. Mage Su obviously saw the person as well. He frowned in dissatisfaction and scolded, "What's going on? Who is she?" The group of mages behind Shi Shang changed their expressions. They all looked at Mage Su, and some even pointed at the necromancy staff in Shi Shang's hand. Who else could have that other than her? You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.